Here are 5 of the easiest strategies in BTD6. At number 5, we have the Apache Prime Prince of Darkness combo. This one is really fun and hands-off and is what I use to black border many beginner and intermediate maps. For our hero, you can really choose any of them, but I'd recommend either a strong early game hero like Obyn or Sada, or you can go with Ezili as she pairs well with the Prince of Darkness. We'll start off with whatever monkeys are needed to get by the first few rounds, whether that's Sada, a submarine, or in this case, a 101 ninja. All of them work just fine, but if you're not running Sada, we'll save up for our hero. I like to put Ezili up front and set her to strong. This way she can apply her damage over time to the strongest bloons right away as they enter the map. Then we'll upgrade our ninja to a 302, as this will give us plenty of popping power and let us focus on setting up our mid-game defenses. For us, that'll be placing a wizard down ideally in the middle of where all our towers will be. This way, when he becomes a necromancer, all the bloons will be popped inside his graveyard's range, so he always has bloons to reanimate. We'll rush a wall of fire on him and then pick up monkey sense. The only hard round in this section might be around 25, as the purples can blow past Ezili and the wizard, but our ninja should be able to solo them. If you're on top of things though, you can always use Ezili's level 3 ability to make the purple bloons weak to magic. After we have our 022 wizard, we'll upgrade our ninja to a 402 bloon jitsu and buff him with an alchemist. Start off with a 300 berserker brew, but work towards making him a 420 stronger stim. This will give us tons of popping power just in time for the 40s. As you can see, none of the rounds will be very difficult, so we'll start working towards the end game. Place down a village in a spot that can buff all of our towers that we've placed and upgrade it to a 200 so our monkeys get that jungle drums buff. If you want, you can pick up Grow Blocker like I did here, but that was just because I didn't want to misclick later on and accidentally crosspath the village incorrectly. We'll need radar scanner once we get the heli pilot, so I just spent the $270 to prevent any future mistakes. Completely player preference, but we have plenty of money to spare. Now we'll work towards getting our first tier 5 monkey of the game by upgrading our wizard. We'll work our way down the bottom path, picking up Shimmer and Necromancer, then we'll move the spawn point of the bloons to slightly behind our defenses. This way they won't be wasted on any bloons that we would have popped normally, but they'll provide a massive layer of defense for any large rushes that would have gotten by. And we want them to be near the wizard so that when these reanimated bloons pop anything, it'll refill our wizard's graveyard. Fast forward 15 rounds and we should be able to afford the Prince of Darkness. No abilities or targeting changes will be needed during this save up period, making it super safe and easy. And once we get our Prince of Darkness, we are set until round 80, which is why this pairs so well with the Apache Prime. Speaking of which, now is the time that we'll place our heli pilot and we'll make him a 302 and we'll pick up radar scanner on the village, as this helicopter won't be able to see camos otherwise. This will bring us to the late 70s where we'll be able to afford the Apache Dart Ship upgrade, bringing our heli pilot from something that does almost no damage to being up there with the Prince for our main damage dealer. And then we'll save straight up for the Apache Prime. Once again, we won't really have to use any abilities, but if you want to, you can. I like to use Ezili's mob hacks on rounds like 85 and 87 just to speed them up a bit and make sure the pod's graveyard stays full. In the late 80s or early 90s though, we'll be able to make our helicopter a 502 Apache Prime and most of our worries will go away. From here, we just need to make our village a 230 MIB to make our heli much better at popping DDTs, and then we'll give him his own personal alchemist. Make this new elk a 420 and only put the heli pilot in his range. This way, all the potions will go to the Apache Prime. Now, all that's left is some support. The big options are either a main mob sniper, some mob press boomerangs, or a relentless glue gunner. All of them are extremely valuable and it's up to you. I opted for a relentless glue just because it's super strong right now, but it might get nerfed in the future, so be flexible here. Anyway, this will crush the 90s, so feel free to use mob hex on any round, though I recommend either using it on round 98 or 99, as those will be the 2 hardest rounds of the run. And this brings us to round 100. The one downfall of this strat is that neither of our tier 5 monkeys are especially good against the bad, but because this strat should really only be used on longer maps, the Apache Prime should be able to take it out eventually. If you have the money though, you can pick up a first strike submarine or some spike storms like I did. Both of these excel at round 100 and will let you pop the bad super easily, especially if mob hex comes back off cooldown, making the ZOMGs inside a joke. But that's my 5th easiest strategy to use on chimps. Just make sure to use it on longer maps that that only have one track. Up next is the sub army. This one is super easy and will beat plenty of beginner and intermediate maps that have a decent amount of water. We'll almost always start off with a dart monkey and a submarine. This is a classic start that works on many maps, even some experts, so just use this and save up for Brickle. For me, the dart and sub let me afford Brickle on round 10, but don't be afraid if a harder map calls for a little extra defense before placing down your hero. From here, we'll work towards getting an airburst dart submarine. If your first sub is in range of Brickle, upgrade that one, but if you put Brickle far away like I did, then getting a new submarine is just fine. I like picking up advanced intel on this new sub first, that way it can start shooting much earlier and helps out a ton on tough rounds like 15. But we should be getting this guy to a 202 in the early 20s, which is just in time for us to get camo detection. In submarine strats, camos are super easy as they can use other towers for this, so we'll just upgrade our dart monkey to a 002, which gives it and our advanced intel sub camo detection. Now, the next thing to worry about are lead balloons, but that's super easily solved with either a buccaneer or an alchemist. Here, I opted to get the buck first and up later, but the order isn't too important. We'll get this buck to a 020 before round 28, that way his hotshot can pop all the leads for us, and we'll get faster shooting on him for that extra attack speed. And now the fun starts. We'll get 2 discount villages as close to the water as possible. These are important because we'll be getting plenty of submarines later on, and these discounts will save us a ton of money. So get down a 002 village and see how much of the water it affects. Sometimes it's tough to get the discount to go deep into the water, but on a map like Lotus Island, it's not too bad. Now that we have a slight discount, upgrade your sub to a 203 to get some extra DPS for the upcoming round. This will buy us enough time to get down another discount village, and here is where you'll have to decide. Do you want to get extra range on the second village to discount more submarines in the future, or do you want to make it a 032 to make DDTs super easy? I prefer the first because Brickle counters DDTs if you're paying attention. With this in mind, I chose to make the second village a 102 for the extra range, and then make the first village a 202 so all of our damaging monkeys will get that jungle drums buff. Then we'll work towards making our buck a 320 destroyer. This guy is a mid-game warrior and will destroy the Moabs coming our way. Unfortunately, he won't be up in time for round 40, but this first Moab is easily popped with Brickle's level 3 ability. Now, the 40s are full of camos, and if you choose the village route that I did, our Buccaneer can't see them. So we'll upgrade our sub up front to a submergent support for some cheap and easy camo detection. Next, we'll get a new submarine and make it a 203 as well. Make sure to put this guy in range of both villages and Brickle to get the most out of him. Then get down a 301 alchemist near the edge of the water so he can buff all of our monkeys, giving them extra attack speed, pierce, and damage. And from here, we start the most important save up of the run. We'll make both of our submarines 204s and save up $27,000 for a sub commander. This will be a super easy time as our current towers are plenty for the next several rounds, and the only one we really have to worry about is round 63, which just happens to be the round we can afford the sub commander on. So just use Brickle's naval tactics on the first rush of ceramics and you should have the money for the sub commander upgrade. This will be plenty of damage to take out the rest of the round. Now, we'll just upgrade our alchemist to a 401 and start filling out the water with more submarines. What I like to do is just squish them in there and make them 203s. This way, we get the full benefit of the double discount villages while also getting tons of extra defenses. Once you fill out the water that's affected by both villages, Brickle, and the sub commander, we can go back and upgrade all of the subs to 204. For me, I ended up with 1 sub commander and 7 APDs, finishing these upgrades on round 81. This is an absurd amount of defense, especially on a long map like this where we can take advantage of the sub's advanced intel. But we're not done yet. We're going back to the buck and making him a carrier flagship. This will take a little bit, but once it's done, our submarines will have yet another buff on them. In the meantime though, there's only one thing to worry about: DDTs. They show up on round 90 and can be tricky as they have the lead property. If you planned on making your second village a 032, this is the time to do it and you'll have nothing to worry about. But if you went my route, then you have to pay attention. We have 2 very easy counters to them. Brickle's level 3 and level 10 ability will both take them out. So in round 90, just wait until the 3 DDTs are on screen and either use a Megamind or Naval Tactics to pop them all. And on round 93, you can pop all 6 of them with these again. Both are super easy to pull off, it's just personal preference. This is about the time we get the carrier flagship, and now it's time for supporting monkeys. I like to get another 401 alchemist on top of our buccaneer so he can spread out the buffs to all the submarines, and then I like to get a 401 ice monkey up front as this guy can de-lead some of the DDTs as well as making everything take extra damage. Overall, a very good value. But this brings us to round 95. I like to start off with a Megamind and wait until plenty of DDTs are on screen before I use naval tactics. If you wait until all the DDTs are about to get past the subs to activate the ability, it'll easily last long enough for you to pop every DDT on the round. From here, it's a smart play to start placing Megaminds near the back of your defenses for a last line of defense, but it's not required. You should be fine without this, but it's just better to be safe than sorry. Now, we'll just pick up something cheap like a 024 glue gunner and beat the rest of the run. Just be sure to either save a Megamind or naval tactics for round 99, as those fortified DDTs can be tricky if you forget. But round 100 should be a piece of cake as our subs hard counter this round. The sub army strat is strong through the entire game, and really the only thing you have to worry about are DDTs, but between Brickle's Megaminds and naval tactics, they really shouldn't be a problem. The third easiest strategy is the Moab Mauler spam. Once again, we'll be using whatever monkeys are necessary to start the run, and then we'll save up for our hero, Striker Jones. To show that you can take your time with this placement, I didn't even get Striker down until after our submarine was a 201, as that was needed to survive. In fact, I even went back to the sub after to make him an airburst, just to make the following rounds easy to deal with. In other words, we are in no rush with this strategy. We'll need some camo detection for round 24 though, so just upgrade a Dart Monkey to a 002 and it'll be able to pop the camo green. From here, we'll need a little extra defense before we can really start spamming maulers. So upgrade that Dart Monkey to a 023 crossbow and either pick up a recursive cluster bomb shooter or upgrade your starting tower another tier. This will bring us to the mid 30s where we will get down 2 discount villages, but unlike the last strategy, one of these will get the radar scanner upgrade later on. Anyway, once we have a 202 and a 002 village down, we'll place down a 203 bomb shooter. This combined with our other towers will be enough defense for right now to get past the next few rounds. We'll upgrade our first village to a 402 so we can get some free upgrades on primary monkeys, and we'll make our second village a 022 so that all of our monkeys have camo detection. Once these are done, we'll get a second bomb shooter and make both of them 204 recursive clusters, and you'll already start to see the power of this strategy. This is about the time that Moabs start coming pretty often, so we'll place down 6 or 7 Moab Maulers. Make sure that all of these are in range of both villages, so just scrunch them in as best you can. We'll be making all these Maulers 130s and changing their targeting to strong so that they're constantly attacking the blimps. With this, even round 63 and 64 will be a piece of cake and will allow you to save up for a primary expertise village. This will provide amazing global damage and make all of our primary monkeys much better. So once we have it, upgrade all our existing Maulers to 230s, as that upgrade will be free, and then go back to placing more bomb shooters. Get as many as you can in range of both villages, make them all 230s, and set their targeting to strong. Now we just need some abilities, so make 2 of these Maulers into Moab Assassins and save up to make one of them a 250 Moab Eliminator. This, combined with the primary expertise, makes for a crazy short cooldown that deals tons of damage to Moab class balloons. So once you have it, just spam this ability for the rest of the run. Now it's just time for some support monkeys. If you can fit a relentless glue inside the range of both villages, do it, but I didn't save enough room for him to get camo detection, so I opted to skip him. Other than a glue gunner, you can place down a 420 sniper for some global stuns and a bunch of 204 boomerangs for some knockback. Now, the only thing you have to know is once Striker hits level 20, his artillery command ability gets much better. On top of resetting the cooldowns of bomb shooters and mortars, it doubles their damage and pierce for 10 seconds. So in rounds like 98, use some abilities and pop Striker's artillery command. This will evaporate the balloons and leave you with Striker's concussive shell and the Moab Eliminator's ability to pop the fortified DDTs on round 99. But once again, round 100 should be effortless, especially if you're still spamming the Moab Eliminator's ability. This strat is one of the best in the game and is often used on expert maps, but over there the upgrade order and timings are much more important. On easier maps, there's a lot of wiggle room that makes spamming Maulers one of the easiest ways to win. The second easiest strat we have is Obyn with Populous Druids. We'll start off with a ninja and purchase Seeking Shuriken as fast as possible. On most beginner and intermediate maps, this will be able to beat the first couple rounds and will work towards making him a 201. This not only solves our future camo problem, but also lets us save up for Obyn. Even on carts and darts, where I had to remove an obstacle first, we easily were able to get Obyn down. From here, we'll place down a druid and you'll have an option. You can either choose to go for a Spirit of the Forest or an Avatar of Wrath. I'll be showing footage of both and you can decide which one you like better. In the Spirit of the Forest run, we'll get down a 230 druid next Obyn and start working towards buffing it with 5 Pop+ Druids. Ideally, you'll discount these guys with 2 villages, but as I'll show you in the Avatar of Wrath strat, you can get away with just 1. Here though, I got down the 2 villages and started placing down 0, 1, 3 Druids. These provide a decent amount of mid-game damage, especially for how cheap they are, and we can start to see how much space all these Druids will take up. Once we have about 3 of them down though, we'll need more camo popping power. Between Brambles and our Ninja, we've been fine through the 30s, but now it's time to pick up a radar scanner on one village and jungle drums on the other. Then we'll go back to placing down Druid of Wraths until we have 6 of them, and then upgrading all of them to 0, 1, 4 Pop+. The goal is to get 5 Pop+ buffs on every Druid, including the Druid of the jungle. All that's left now is getting down 2 Stronger Sim Alchemists to buff all of our Druids, and then upgrading the Druid of the jungle to a Spirit of the Forest. This will be a super easy save up as their popping power is crazy at this time, and if you want to be extra safe, you can put Obyn's Wall of Trees as far back as possible for a last line of defense. As for our Avatar of Wrath run, we changed a few things. First, I started with a Druid because this was an easier map. This made camos a bit harder to deal with, so we popped around 24 with just Brambles, and I picked up a radar scanner by round 33. This is a bit unorthodox, but I wanted to show that it can easily be done. From here, we got our 6 Druid of Wraths, a Berserker Brew, and a Jungle Drums before making all of our Druids into Pop+. Then, before saving up for an Avatar of Wrath, we put a Druid of the Storm in back to knock back any balloons that sneak by. This guy is surprisingly good when buffed by a bunch of Pop+, and adds a lot to our defenses. And just like the other run, we got 2 stronger stims and saved up for the tier 5 Druid. In the Spirit of the Forest run, we got this upgrade on round 79, giving us plenty of time to pick up either extra damage or support monkeys. Right away, we got down a Druid of the Storm for that nice knockback, and then upgraded our radar scanner to a MIB so that all of our monkeys can pop every type of balloon. For the rest of the run, all we bought was a main mob sniper for a little bit of stalling, and we won with over 62k in the bank. On harder maps, we would have had to buy more defenses, but even on an intermediate one, we got away with just this. One fun thing that I like to do though, is pick up an Avatar of Wrath alongside the Spirit of the Forest. In this run, we could have afforded it on round 98, but it would have been pretty overkill. As for the Avatar of Wrath run, we got this upgrade on round 81. Here, it's important that he is up front because you want him attacking constantly, as he attacks faster the more damage he's done that round. But if he stops attacking for just 2 seconds, this buff resets. After this tier 5 purchase, we picked up a MIB for all of our Druids, and then we saved up for an Icicle Impale. We really could have gotten any type of support monkeys, but you've already seen me get glue gunners, snipers, and boomerangs in other runs, so I wanted to mix it up. This tier 5 monkey stopped the DDTs and other blimps in their tracks, letting the Druids pop them super easily. And even with picking up another tier 5 tower, we still ended up beating chimps with $32,000 left over. Not bad for not trying to save money. But those were the Pop+ strategies. Super hands off, as you don't really need abilities, you just need to make sure all your Druids are buffed by a MIB and 5 Pop+. But now we're on to the easiest strategy that I know of, and you better believe it revolves around Sada. We'll place her down right away and watch her solo the early rounds. Then we'll get down a wizard and make it a 0-2-0 wall of fire ASAP. I like to put this guy slightly in front of Sada, as that wall of fire will thin out the herd of balloons, and later on, this wizard will be able to apply a burn effect on the balloons early on. After this, we'll make our wizard a 0-2-2 so he has camo detection, and then get a Berserker Brew Alchemist. Both of our towers will become very strong with this buff on them, and they'll be able to handle every round, but if by some miracle the balloons get by, you can always use Sada's level 3 ability to bail you out. Fast forward to the mid 30s, and we'll have enough money to upgrade our wizard to a Dragon's Breath, a mid-game powerhouse even after its recent nerfs. Then we'll get a Jungle Drums village for round 40, and our defenses will pop the Moab so fast that we don't even have to think about using Sword Leap. But then we'll make our Alchemist a 401 stronger stim and place down the MVP of the run, a glue gunner. We'll make him a 0-2-4 relentless glue and watch him do his magic. Not only does he slow the balloons and Moabs coming our way, but when they pop, his glue applies a stun to nearby balloons that are still alive. This provides a crazy amount of stalling potential and pairs extremely well with Sada. Not only does he keep the balloons inside Sada's small range for longer, but also provides her with tons of extra damage. You see, at level 7, Sada deals extra damage to stunned and frozen balloons, and at level 11, she deals extra damage to slowed balloons and those taking damage damage over time, and these two can stack. So she'll be outputting tons of damage if a Bloon or Blimp is stunned and burning at the same time. Now we'll pick up radar scanner on the village and do whatever we want going forward. I mean, I used a similar setup to get super mines on Cubism, and that's a $135,000 upgrade. I don't recommend doing that, but we do have tons of options. What I did was get a Perma Spike factory at the end of the track and buffed it with jungle drums and an alchemist. Then I went back up front and upgraded our relentless glue to a super glue, which stops Bloons in their tracks and applies a damage over time effect to them. This stall lets the factory place down tons of spikes every round, making sure the exit is secure even if a ton of spikes were used recently. Then we upgraded our village to a primary training and got 2 Moab presses for even more stalling. Probably not necessary, but I found it funny how well we were stalling the balloons, and we only needed one more thing: some single target damage for the bad on round 100. So we picked up a Moab eliminator to solve that problem. I was between this and a first strike submarine, but we already had a primary training village for the super glue, so I thought, why not get another primary monkey to benefit from this village? And with this addition, we had more than enough damage to take out the bad on round 100, and this factory still had a massive wall of spikes that were unused at the end of the track. Here are 5 strats you need to use in BTD6. Up first, we have the Psy Permacharge combo. The Boomer is amazing at breaking down Blimp layers, and Psy takes care of the rest. We'll start the game with whatever monkeys we need to get past the first few rounds, but we'll quickly place down a Boomerang monkey. This guy's great, as not only is he cheap and what we'll be upgrading later, he also provides some nice early game defense. We'll upgrade him to a 0-2-2 so that he attacks fast, deals 2 damage per shot, and can pop lead balloons, which will let us save up for Psy. Getting Psy down early and playing on advanced or expert maps is great, as they need the extra levels more than other heroes. Their levels 14 and 16 make them jump from popping ceramics to Moabs and BFBs, making the later rounds much easier for our other monkeys to deal with. But after placing Psy, we'll upgrade the Boomerang to a 0-3-2 Bionic Boomer. This will be a nice foundation to our mid game, but then we have some options. It's time to pick up any monkey that'll help with the Moab. You can get a Spectre like I did here, a Necromancer, Sniper, Destroyer, or you can upgrade your Boomer to a Turbocharge if you're willing to fight through the 30s. Really, you can get anything you want as long as it can break the outer layer of the Moab. Once that's cracked, Psy will pop 3 of the 4 ceramics inside, leaving you with very little to clean up. No matter what you chose, we have plenty of time to make it better. All we need to get is the Permacharge up and running by round 80, meaning we can spend all of our money until round 63. This is nice because 63 and 64 are the classic rounds that end runs, so spend away to beat them. This can be on a big tower like a Prince of Darkness, or several smaller towers like a Spiked Mines or Aircraft Carrier, plus a Relentless Glue, Abyssal Warrior, and Primary Training Village. Really, we just need the Turbocharge and a supporting cast to beat round 63 through 79, and with this, we'll get the Permacharge just in time for the ZOMG. Make sure to use his ability for round 80 and watch the Permacharge tear the Blimps apart while Psy handles the ceramics underneath, and the rest of our money will be spent supporting our Permacharge. Pick up some Moab presses to stall Blimps and try to get this guy more Pierce. Easy ways to do this are with top path villages and Mer monkeys. While it is a solid choice to stop at a Primary Training and Abyssal Warrior as they're relatively cheap, you'll have plenty of money to upgrade them further. I personally like making the village a 5-2-0 Primary Expertise, as it gives him +3 Pierce, makes his ability cooldown 20% faster, and its Ballista attack helps out a ton with ceramics, which happens to be the Permacharge's weakness. Now, you might be wondering about adding an Alchemist to this guy, but you don't have to. He doesn't work the best with stronger stims because of how fast he blows through the buff. He already has a ton of damage and only shoots 1 projectile at a time, so if you're in a money crunch, you can skip the Elk altogether. Funny enough, you can use this money saved to pick up an unstable concoction, something I rarely get these days, as it can turn round 98 into an unstoppable wall of super ceramics, but when paired with Psy and Apex or Prince of Darkness, the ceramics are pretty easy to deal with, especially if you have Psy's level 10 ability ready. Psionic Scream knocks back or insta-kills BFBs and below, making it work great with monkeys that can take out the ZOMG layers fast like the Permacharge. But the last thing we'll need is something to help out with round 100. On several maps, the Permacharge won't have enough time to pop the bad layer and everything underneath, so pick up a Spike, Storm, or First Strike to help out, and that should easily get you the win. Next up, we have Striker Jones and the Bloon Incineration. Now, I'm not a big Mortar Monkey fan, but this is a fun one. Once again, the starting monkeys don't really matter, just try to get Striker Jones down early. The higher level he is, the easier time we'll have. From here, we have two goals. The first is to get our mid-game monkeys. They can be whatever you want, but some obvious choices are Moab Maulers, recursive clusters, an artillery battery, or an aircraft carrier, as these work very well with Striker and destroy the mid-game. And our second goal is to get a signal flare mortar down for the 30s. This will interrupt building our other monkeys, but it's our main source of camo detection and will eventually become a Bloon incineration. But because this guy reveals camos, we have some flexibility with our village. I normally pick this up right after the signal flare, and we can either leave it as a 200 to save money, or if we're going to place a bunch of monkeys like Maulers and recursive clusters, we can pick up monkey commerce as well, discounting future monkeys placed or upgraded in its radius. It's kind of exciting that we don't need the middle path village here, as the signal flare reveals camos, and Striker Jones makes black balloons weak to explosions, so we don't need a MIB. But once this village is down, we'll go back and finish whatever monkeys we were building before, and when we're done with that, it's time to save up for the Bloon incineration. It shouldn't be too hard, because Striker Jones' concussive shell has such a short cooldown that it can counter just about every ceramic rush, and once you upgrade the signal flare to a shattering shells, it'll remove the fortified property off Moabs, making the 60s and 70s quite a bit easier. But in the mid to late 70s, we'll get this tier 5 upgrade. And now it's just time to support it. Buff it with a 420 Alchemist and get the classics like Moab Presses and a Relentless Glue. This will destroy the 90s, but we'll need help with round 100. So pick up any monkey that does a lot of single target damage, like a Moab Eliminator, First Strike, or Spike Storm, but that should easily get you the CHIMPS Win. Moving on, we have a 3-way combo in the Lord of the Abyss, Symphonic Resonance, and Brickle. In short, the Lord gives extra pierce to Brickle's Mine and the Symphonic Song. The song makes the Lord's tentacles deal tons of damage if you make the balloon circle around him, and Brickle's Naval Tactics makes the Lord OP while it's active, so it's a triple threat. Anyway, this map will need a bit of water to make it work, so I like to start off with a sub in Dart Monkey or a Buccaneer in Dart. If you're on a harder track, you'll need a map-specific start, but this strat is so cheap, you should easily be able to transition over to it. Once we beat the first few rounds, we'll get down Brickle. I like to set her to strong, as her pistol does 3 damage at level 1, letting her bring pinks all the way down to blues, making the teens much easier. And from here, the plan is simple. Get or upgrade our Buccaneer to a 220 for some solid damage and get ready for camos. You can either upgrade the sub to a submergence support now, or you can delay that by upgrading our Dart Monkey to an enhanced eyesight or placing a 001 Mer Monkey next to Brickle to pop the camo green on round 24. Delaying the sub upgrades can help you spend a little more on defenses in the 20s, but either way, we'll need a submergence support for rounds 33 and up. But from here, we'll upgrade the Buccaneer to a tier 3 boat, either make him a cannon ship or a destroyer. Completely up to you, as both work just fine. These, combined with Brickle's Naval Tactics, will be enough to beat through round 40, and we can start working on our Mer Monkey. If you haven't placed him already, make sure to put him next to Brickle and the Buccaneer, and upgrade him to a 301. This gives him a solid tentacle attack, while also giving nearby monkeys plus 10% pierce. But now you have a decision to make. We can either upgrade the Abyss Dweller straight to a Lord of the Abyss, or you can get a second Mer Monkey, making it a 203 Alluring Melody. While not necessary, I like to get this second Mer Monkey now, as its stalls make the save up to the Lord of the Abyss super easy. Either way, we'll get the tier 5 Mer Monkey in time for the 60s, so there's not much to worry about. But now, we only have one more thing to make our combo complete. Make a Symphonic Resonance and place its shell right next to the Lord of the Abyss. This makes tons of balloons come in his range, and because they revolve around him, all of his tentacles get involved, skyrocketing his DPS. But from here, you can get whatever you want. I normally go back to my Buccaneer and make it a tier 5, so either a carrier flagship or pirate lord, and you'll still have over 50k to spend on support. Some useful monkeys to get are stalls to buy time for the Symphonic Song, so a snowstorm or presses work well here. As long as you're not on an expert map, you can really get anything and still win. I like to upgrade the sub to a Bloontonium reactor to shorten up Brickle's cooldown. Sometimes I pick up a Perma Brew just for fun, or I go back and upgrade the song to a final harmonic, as it makes Brickle's cooldowns even lower. Just know that the Lord of the Abyss isn't great at breaking down ZOMGs, so make sure to use Brickle's Megamind or the Pirate Lord's hooks on those. But that just leaves round 100, which is easily solved with all your leftover money. But once again, use Spike Storms or a First Strike to pop the bad. Shifting gears, we have the Gwen Savitar combo. While not a great strategy, it's one of the more fun runs I've had recently, and it's more than enough as long as you're playing on an easier map. The reason why is we'll be getting the most out of Gwen's cocktail, and to do so, we need tons of balloons in one spot. So if they're spread out across several lanes, like on harder maps, it gets much weaker. Anyway, we'll start off however necessary, but get Gwen down ASAP. She provides some solid defense, and her cocktail can burn through just about every balloon rush at this stage in the game. From here, we want to get a Super Monkey. If you're on an easy map, you can save straight up for it, but if you're on a harder one, you'll need some monkeys to help you get there. Maybe it's upgrading the sub or placing something like a Spactory or Buccaneer. It doesn't really matter what you get as long as it helps you place the super monkey. Ideally, this can also pop all the camos in the 20s and 30s, but if it does need help, you can always use Gwen's cocktail to pop them. After we get this super monkey down though, we'll upgrade it to a 002. This will give it knockback and camo detection, shoring up our weakness. And this is where the fun starts. We'll get 2 Berserker Brews, one right next to Gwen and the other touching the super monkey. This will give us tons of AMD buffs to go around, and neither of them need a stronger stim yet, so you can upgrade the Super Zelk to have perishing potions and leave Gwen's as a 300. This should bring you to the early 40s, and you can see the power of Gwen's cocktail as we have a few things going for it. The first is the super monkey's knockback keeps the balloons in her wall of fire longer, causing it to do more damage, and the other is we'll only use her ability when Gwen is affected by AMD and Berserker Brew, as these add damage and pierce to the flames, making it do way more damage. So just highlight over Gwen and use her ability whenever both of these buffs are on her. This is when we start making tons of money, so buff your monkeys with a 220 village to give them extra attack speed and camo detection. And from here, we'll upgrade the super to a 302 Sun avatar. This already destroys the mid game, but Gwen gives it +1 damage and pierce, making it even better. But these two are weak to purples. Luckily, this can be easily solved with another monkey or upgrading the village to a 230. Though, building a mib is incredibly overkill at this stage in the game. My personal favorite way to deal with purples is to have a reactor up front, as there's no way a purple gets through. Plus, it means you can make your village a 202 instead, since the sub can decamo everything. But Gwen and the Sun avatar will destroy the rounds, especially if you upgrade this Avatar's Elk to a stronger stim like I did. But in the late 80s, they fall off hard. Even if you add the standard support, you'll need more damage. Luckily for us, we'll have tons of money by this time, so you can pick up just about anything. My two favorites are the Wizard Lord Phoenix or Infernal Ring, as they both can carry the late game and get buffed by Gwen's passive attack speed increase to fire monkeys, and you'll still have plenty of money left over. I got a Wizard Lord Phoenix and First Strike and still ended the run with over $30,000 in the bank. And our final strategy is a classic, but it recently got buffed, so I had to include it. The Master Bomber. Since the last time I've covered him, he got tons of extra damage to stun balloons and now throws his sticky bombs twice as fast as he used to, so I had to try him out. Like the other strats, the start doesn't matter, but here I like to work a ninja into my early game defense. Normally, I make him a 201 with plans of upgrading him to a Bloon Jitsu later on, and once we can afford it, we'll put Obyn down next to him. What hero we pick doesn't really matter, but I like Obyn's strong early game and ability to pop leads. Then we go back to the ninja and make him a 302 double shot. This, combined with Obyn, will crush the early game. Next, we want to get ready for the 40s, so pick up a Berserker Brew and upgrade the ninja to a Bloon Jitsu. The order doesn't really matter, but I prefer to get the Alchemist first. Either way, we'll leave the Elk as a 300 and start the next stage. We'll place down 2 discount villages and a ninja that you plan on making the Master Bomber later on. You want this ninja to be near the villages and in a big opening so that you can buff him with a ton of shinobis. Make one of the villages a 102 and the other a 202, so both have larger radius, but only one has jungle drums. Then we'll make this ninja a 203 flash bomb. This will be pretty cheap with the double discount, and we'll go back to the Alchemist and make him a 301. It's kind of unnecessary, but we might as well pick it up if he's in range of both discounts. But this should bring us to the mid 40s, where we'll start placing 031 ninjas all around the flash bomb and Bloon Jitsu. Do this until we have about 10 shinobi buffs on both ninjas and watch them tear apart the rounds. Having 10 of these guys gives our ninjas plus 130% attack speed and plus 80% pierce, so nothing should really be a problem, making our next goal pretty easy. It's time to save up for the Master Bomber. While it's a pretty hefty upgrade, we should be able to afford it around round 80, just in time for the ZOMGs and Super Ceramic, and he'll make them a thing of the past. But we're not done yet. We'll fill out the map with more shinobis until our Master Bomber has 20 shinobi buffs on him, giving him a whopping plus 430% attack speed and plus 160% pierce, letting him easily keep up with the blimp heavy rounds of the 90s. And honestly, you don't need anything else. I went on Tinkerton with over 60k as is, but if you want to spend more, my favorite thing to buy here is caltrops on every single ninja. They benefit from the attack speed and pierce buffs of the shinobis too, letting this army of ninjas place a massive wall of spikes down every round, and nothing will get through this. On Cornfield I had this, and the bad didn't even get to the thick part of the caltrops, but those were 5 strats you need to try out in BTD6. Here are 5 incredibly strong strategies to help you beat chimps. Up first, we have Gwen Tax, and this isn't where she takes your money, it's where she buffs tax shooters. We'll start off by placing whatever monkeys can beat the first few rounds. Whether that's a few dart monkeys, a dart and a submarine, or just a ninja, it doesn't really matter. What does is that we'll be placing Gwendolyn the second we can afford her, and we'll place her in front of where we'll be placing the rest of our defenses. From here, we'll want to do two things: shore up our camo detection and get a little more popping power. I did this by upgrading our dart monkey to a 023 crossbow and getting a boomerang down, but if you started with a ninja, you could upgrade it to a double shot. With these upgrades, you won't have to worry about anything for the time being, and we can set up this wild combo. Right next to Gwen, we'll get a tack shooter and upgrade it to a 204 overdrive. This thing is great on its own, but when paired with Gwen, it becomes a beast. You see, every 40 shots she shoots, Gwen erupts in flames. This pops nearby Bloons, but more importantly, buffs the monkeys next to her by letting them pop leads and gives them +1 pierce, which is amazing on tack shooters. This is why we want her in the front always attacking and next to the overdrives. After we have our 204 tack shooter, we'll get another one right next to it. Make sure these guys are as close to the track as possible and preferably below the track, as they do more damage that way. This should bring us pretty close to round 40 and the first Moab of the run. The overdrive should be able to take out the outer layer, and Gwen can pop the insides with her level 3 ability. But now we're on to the fun part. If you have the room, we're going to get down 2 discount villages. So make both of them 002s, then upgrade one of them to a 302 primary training and the other to a 022 radar scanner. If you only have room for one village, like I did on Scrapyard, then a single 320 village will do just fine. But these villages will give everything more attack speed, camo detection, and primary monkeys will get extra pierce. But now we're on to save up for the tack zone. This will be a massive increase in popping power, and even rounds like 63 and 64 will be a piece of cake. After we get it, buff the tack zone with a 420 Alchemist and place 2 to 3 more overdrives in range of the villages and Gwendolyn. This makes every Bloon and Blimp coming through here get hit by tons of tacks, and then we'll place down a top path Ice Monkey. We'll make this guy a 520 Super Brittle and make sure he can hit Blimps when they're in range of the tack shooters. This Ice Monkey makes Bloons take extra damage from every projectile, and like we just said, we have loads of tacks being shot every second. Once you have your Super Brittle down, fill out the rest of the space with support monkeys. I got 2 Moab Press Boomerangs and a Relentless Glue Gunner, but you could also get a Mer Monkey or Sabotage Ninja. I got these down by around 85, and it was enough to win, so spend the rest of your money however you want. I saved it all and had over 56 grand by the end, but you could buy a Primary Expertise Village or a Permabrew Alchemist with that money. On to the second strategy, which might be the easiest one in the game. For the start, we'll either go with a Dart Monkey plus a Submarine or Buccaneer. I like to go with a sub if there's water up front, and a Buccaneer if the main water spot is farther back. If we do start with a Dart sub combo, then our next tower will be a Buccaneer. This will be our main damage dealer later on, so make sure he's in a good spot. But from here, we can save straight up to Brickle. Put her right next to the boat and upgrade it to a 210, picking up Grape Shot first and then faster firing. If you started with a Dart Monkey and Buccaneer, it's a little easier though. Just make the Buck a 010 as fast as possible and you can save up for Brickle. Once you have her down, make the Buck a 210 and we're basically in the same spot as the other route. Here, we just need to solve one issue: camos. If you have a submarine up front, upgrade that bad boy to a 300 submergence support. Otherwise, just make your Dart Monkey a 023 crossbow, as that'll handle all the early camos for us. Next, we'll upgrade our Buck to a 320 destroyer, give him a Berserker Brew Alchemist, and buff him with a Jungle Drums Village. If your submerge and support submarine is in a good enough spot to decamo everything, you can leave the village as a 200 or even make it a 202 for those discounts. But if you don't have a submarine, or if it's in an iffy spot, upgrade the village to a 220. This should be around the time we face the Moab. You probably don't need any help for this guy, but using Brickle's level 3 ability Naval Tactics will absolutely smoke it. Then we'll just upgrade the Buccaneer to a 520 carrier flagship and the Alchemist to a 420 stronger simulant. And I am not kidding when I say that this is basically enough to win. I got this on round 62 of Skates and I didn't purchase anything else until round 99, so spend your money on whatever you want. But here are some helpful tips. Use Naval Tactics anytime DDTs come on screen. This ability gives the carrier flagship the normal damage type, meaning all of its attacks can damage DDTs when active. This will crush rounds 90 and 93, but round 95 will also require a Megamind just because Naval Tactics doesn't last long enough to pop every one of them. You'll probably have a pretty easy time with these rounds though, because by round 95 I had $95,000 saved up. I wanted to beat Chimps without buying anything else, but I used both abilities to beat round 98, meaning I had to spend some money for 99. With my $118,000, I threw down a 204 Super Monkey and the last 2 rounds were free. I like to use this money to get monkeys I normally can't afford, like on Spice Islands where I picked up a Ray of Doom on round 98, making the ending easy and fun. But with the Brickle flagship combo, you can really get whatever monkeys you want and still get the Chimps medal. Next, we have the new hotness, the Glaive Lord Final Harmonic combo, which is what I recently used to Black Border quad. We'll start off however you want, but using Quincy or Sada is definitely the way to go. Sada is a bit better, but I'll use Quincy just because everyone has him unlocked. Once we beat the first couple rounds with him, place down a Boomerang Monkey. This will be our main damage dealer later on, so make sure he's in a good spot and upgrade him to a 002. Technically, the late game will be better if we don't go down this bottom path, but it makes the mid game much easier and we'll be fine in the late game anyway. From here, we'll get a 022 wizard to help out with camos and leads and go back to the boomerang, making him a 302 glaive ricochet. This will lock down the early game and let us save up for a Dragon's Breath wizard. With this, nothing will be an issue and we can upgrade our boomer to a 402 more glaives and buff everything with a Jungle Drums village. Around this time, it will face the round 40 Moab, which shouldn't be a problem, but if you're scared, you can always use Quincy's Rapid Shot or Sada's Sword Leap to help take it out. Next, we'll put a Berserker Brew Alchemist next to Quincy and the Boomer. This makes us amazing at everything except for Moab class Bloons. To deal with these though, we just need a 204 Mermonkey. This Symphonic Resonance upgrade is up there for the best stalling tower in the game right now, and it can distract anything up to BFBs. Plus, anything caught in its song gets decamoed, so our Boomer will be able to help out with them. Feel free to move the shell around to make the song as effective as possible. But from here, we'll upgrade our Alchemist to a 420 and start our save up for the Glaive Lord. We don't really have to worry about any hard rounds because our Wizard and Boomer take out large rushes and our Mermonkey stalls any Moabs and BFBs heading our way. But in the mid 60s, we'll have the money for this tier 5 upgrade. Its Orbiting Glaives will be able to take out anything at this point in the game, and its main attack will shred ZOMGs and below, which makes our next save up that much easier. We'll go straight for the Final Harmonic. We should get this by round 80 and it'll give us tons of buffs. The first is that we can now pull in ZOMGs with its song, bringing our stalls to the next level. Second, it gives extra pierce to any magic monkeys inside the song's range. And third, our hero gets extra attack range and shorter cooldowns. But from here, you can kind of get whatever you want. I like to upgrade the village to a 320 primary training to make our Glaive Lord a bit better and give it permanent camo detection, but this will still leave you with over 50 grand to spend. This run, I got a Bloon Solver for fun, but you do you. And this brings us to round 100 and the final reason why this combo is good. You see, the Mermonkey's song speeds up the damage over time effects on Bloons, and while the bad doesn't get distracted by the song, it does take this sped up damage. So, the Glaive Lord's massive effect of 100 damage per second for 15 seconds gets sped up for 1500 damage almost instantly over and over again. Normally, the Glaive Lord is only weak to tanky Bloons like the bad, but the Mermonkey completely solves this issue. This is also why I got the Bloon Solver, because the song speeds up this damage as well. So we melted the bad in just a few seconds and got a super easy win. Shifting gears, we have a super strong Spike factory strategy. We'll start off with Sada and work towards a Ninja. I like to get this guy to a 302 and then get a 300 Alchemist to buff both of them. This works out well with the timing of leads that come on around 28, as the Elk will be able to pop them, but if you had to spend more money elsewhere, you could always use Sada's Sword Leap to take out the leads on this round. Anyway, once we have the Berserker Brew Alchemist, we'll go back to our Ninja and make him a 402 Bloon Jitsu. This will give us plenty of popping power for a while, and we can start to set up our actual strat. In the middle of everything, we'll place down a Mermonkey and upgrade it to a 302 Abyss Dweller. This gives extra pierce to every monkey in its range, as well as having a pretty solid tentacle attack, but this will bring us right up to round 40. We should be able to pop it easily as is, but you can always use a Sword Leap to be safe. After the Moab, we'll place down a Jungle Drums village. This is a fun case where we get to leave the village as a 200 as we don't need Radar Scanner right now. But after the village, we'll upgrade our Mermonkey to a 402 Abyssal Warrior for an even larger pierce buff and a slow on blimps. I like to set this Mermonkey to strong so that it inks all the Moabs that come in its range, similar to a Moab Glue Gunner. But this brings us to our Spactory, and you get to pick what upgrade you want, a Carpet of Spikes or a Perma Spike. Both are very solid and you can't really go wrong with either. If you go with a Carpet, you can save straight up for this upgrade, making it a 250. If the Bloons ever get close to leaking, use either of Sada's abilities or the Spike Storms, as all three are excellent at preventing leaks. If you go with a Perma Spike though, I like to make a small change of getting the Spactory its own personal Alchemist once it's a 023 long life spikes. This makes it do way more damage as well as lets it pop lead Bloons, which is super nice once DDTs start coming. But just like the Carpet, you can save up for the Perma Spike upgrade straight from here. Then upgrade the Elk to a 420 for an even bigger buff, and your exit will be pretty safely guarded by the Spactory. From here, we have two goals. Get some extra pierce on the Spactory and get some support monkeys down. We'll get extra Pierce by upgrading our Mermonkey to a 502 Lord of the Abyss. This provides a massive increase in DPS for this tower, but more importantly, increases the Pierce buff it provides from plus 15% to 30%. And Pierce goes a long way on Spectres, as each individual spike can deal tons of damage. As for support, feel free to get whatever you want. I really like 024 Glue Gunners and 204 Mermonkeys, but you can also dabble with some Sabotage Ninjas, Moab Press Boomers, or even Maim Moab Snipers. Just make sure to pick up Radar Scanner on the village if you get some support monkeys that don't have camo detection so that they can help out with DDTs. But after you get these down, you should comfortably win with around 50k left over. And finally, we have a fun one. It's a play on the classic Druid strat, but Obyn recently got a buff, so it's a bit better. Once again, you can start however you want, just try to get down Obyn as early as possible. From here, we'll place a Druid right next to him and upgrade it to a 130 Druid of the Jungle. This will stomp any round that doesn't have camos, but Obyn's Brambles alone can handle them until the 40s if you're on a one-lane map, and if you have a ninja or crossbow helping out, it'll be even easier. Next, we'll place down 2 more Druids and upgrade them to 014 Populus. This will add some much-needed Moab popping power to our lineup, and we'll buff them all with a 301 Alchemist. I like to put them right next to the Druid of the Jungle to prep for the late game, but if you want an easier time now, you can put the Elk near the other Druids. During this time, we'll face the round 40 Moab, and between a Brambles and our Populus, the outer layer should be popped pretty easily, and the Druid of the Jungle can clean up the rest. But this brings us to the 40s and the buff to Obyn. On round 42, he should hit level 8, granting all Druids in his range camo detection, letting them pop the camo rainbows on this round. This also lets us get away without getting a radar scanner going forward, so we'll place down a 202 village in range of everything and go back to placing Druids. We want to get up to 5014 Populus to give our Druid of the Jungle as many buffs as possible. Then we'll upgrade our Alchemist to a 401 Stronger Stim and start the save up for the Spirit of the Forest. We'll make him a 250 in the late 70s, and the game will get very easy. The vines on the track will tear everything apart, and his main attack does a surprising amount of damage too. From here, we're basically set. We just need some damage to pop the tanky outer layers of fortified ZOMGs and the bad. And what better way to do that than with a MAD? So place a Dartling Gunner next to the village and start upgrading it to a 150 if it can see a ton of the map, or a 052 if there are obstacles in its way like I had on Lotus Island. This whole time you can be placing Obyn's trees down at the back of the track for some extra defense, but the Spirit of the Forest should be able to handle everything. This will bring us to the late 90s, where we'll get the MAD just in time for the fortified ZOMGs on round 97, and from here, the MAD will pop everything down to Moabs or Super Ceramics, and the Spirit of the Forest will pop the rest. But those were 5 strong strategies to help you beat chimps. Here are 5 incredibly fun strategies you should use in BTD6. The first is the Moab Domination Overclock combo, something I recently used to Black Border Ravine. We'll start however necessary, but we'll want to save the best spot for a boomerang. We're in no rush to get this guy, but I like to get him down early-ish to help space out the rest of my defenses. Once you get through the early game, you'll need some mid-game monkeys that can carry to the mid-80s. The Moab Domination costs $54,000, so that's roughly when we'll be able to afford it. I chose to get a Velociraptor and upgrade my boomer to a 023 Kylie, but there are tons of options. You could get an aircraft carrier, arcane spike, ball lightning, robo monkey, spiked balls, plasma accelerator, or bads, and we'll be getting a lot of these in this video, so feel free to mix and match save ups. And because I went with a beast handler, I got down 2 discount villages. This isn't necessary, but if you plan on getting a T-Rex, Paukai, or Orca, having these 2 will save you tons of money. Otherwise, feel free to just get a 220 village that buffs everything. With our Velociraptor and Quincy in front, we bought a 420 spiked mines in the back and buffed him with a Berserker Brew Alchemist. This thing is a tad expensive, but he's amazing at popping ceramics, so put it in the back and the exit will be completely safe. Next, we'll need a little more popping power if we're going to make it to the 80s, so I upgraded my Velociraptor to a T-Rex, got him to 40 power, and started saving. This guy destroys Moabs and ceramics, as each bite deals 52 damage and has 38 pierce, which didn't let much get to our spiked mines, especially when we used our abilities. Nothing should really be a problem unless you're on a much harder map, as even in the low 80s, our defenses were able to pop almost everything, with only a couple spiked mines being used each round. And on 83, we were able to get our tier 5 upgrade. This guy is insane at stalling and damaging Bloons, and we're not done yet. We'll be getting him an overclock and a stronger stim to bring his attack speed to the next level. So buy a 040 engineer and a 420 alchemist and keep him buffed at all time. If you didn't know, an overclocked Moab Dom basically solos the 90s, so these last few rounds should be super easy. You can spend the rest of your money however you want, and you'll be just just fine. Just make sure that you build some anti-bad towers, as round 100 is the only one that the Moab Dom will need help on. I went with a few more Velociraptors to max out our T-Rex and one with 30k left over, but some smart things to pick up would have been a First Strike Submarine or some Spike Storm Spactories. Next, we have the Elite Defender and Bloon Solver combo. This one is great because the Elite Defender pops all the blimps and the Bloon Solver takes care of the ceramics inside. Just like the last strat, start with whatever monkeys you need to get by. The two tier 5s we'll be using in this strat are pretty cheap, so we're in no rush. I like to get an early ninja to deal with camos later on, but you do you. After you get through the first few rounds, place down your hero. I went with Obyn because he's cheap and has a great early game, but you can pick any of them. This strat is not hero dependent. Then just work towards beating round 40 while working a sniper into the mix. I went with a Bloon Jitsu and Berserker Brew for my main defenses and put a 203 semi-auto sniper set to strong at the top of Adora's temple. This guy popped the Moab by the time he made it to Obyn, and our ninja easily cleaned up the inside. But because we don't have much camo detection, we'll buff everything with a 220 village. This will make our sniper almost able to solo the 40s, giving us plenty of time and money to get a 320 glue gunner. This, combined with our hero and ninja, will be able to pop the normal bloons, letting us go back to our sniper and make it a 204 for the 50s. This will break all the Moabs down to ceramics for your other defenses to pop, and will upgrade the glue gunner to a Bloon liquefier. This gives us a weaker version of our late game defenses, but it's more than enough for the bloons we're facing right now. Here, we can save straight up for the Elite Defender, but if you're afraid of leaking, you can pick up a 302 Druid for some blowback like I did. Not always necessary, but it's a safe pickup. After you get the Elite Defender, go back to the Glue Gunner and make him a Bloon Solver. This completes our combo, will be the backbone of our defenses, and gives us tons of time to buy more monkeys. You can really get whatever you want, but a great choice is the Final Harmonic. Not only does it stall for our monkeys to do more damage, but it also makes our Bloon Solver much better as it speeds up the corrosive damage. So get a 205 Mermonkey and put the shell next to your Glue Gunner and hero, as we won't complain about more range and shorter cooldowns on Obyn. This will bring us to the mid 80s, where we'll have time for one more big upgrade or a few support monkeys. There isn't a wrong decision here, but my favorite is to get a primary expertise. We don't really have enough primary monkeys to make this an amazing pickup, but those global ballistas and giving our Bloon Solver more pierce do go a long way. And with this, you should easily beat the bad. Our single target sniper plus the sped up corrosive damage will pop the outer layer quickly and give you plenty of time to clean up the inside. Moving on, we have the Super Glue Perma Spike strategy. Just like the others, you can start however you like, just get past the first few rounds. Unlike the past two strats though, we have a specific hero in mind, and it's Sada. She pairs great with Super Glue and will give us tons of damage for a cheap price. Anyway, once you have the money, get Sada down and finish off your early game defenses. I did this with an FMJ Sniper and Spike Factory, but you can spend more money if you need to. We'll upgrade this factory to a 024 over the next several rounds and buff our main defenses with a Jungle Drums Village. This will bring us to round 40, where we'll easily pop the Moab, especially if you use Sada's Sword Leap on the ceramics. But following this, we'll want to give the Spactory a Berserker Brew Alchemist and pick up a mid-game monkey. I opted for a 402 Wizard, but you can really use any of the monkeys I listed earlier, like an Aircraft Carrier, Bads, or Packle. Around this time, Sada will start to deal extra damage to stun balloons, so we'll build a 024 Glue Gunner right next to her. This thing is amazing on its own as it slows blimps, and when glued balloons pop, they stun those around it, but it gets even better with Sada as it gives her tons of extra damage since she preys on weak balloons. Next, we'll get a Berserker Brew next to Sada and the Wizard and put a Ball Lightning Druid in the back. This will set us up nicely for our big save up, and you can pick what upgrade you want first, the Super Glue or Perma Spike. Either works great, just make sure to pick up a radar scanner once you get the Super Glue upgrade. Then go back and pick up the other tier 5. This will put you in the mid 80s and you can start to spend your money on whatever you want. Some nice pickups are upgrading your Berserker Brews to stronger stims and buying a 402 Sniper and setting him to last. This will stall the rounds, letting your Perma Spike build up a massive wall of spikes while the last blimp is being stunned at the entrance. You'll still have plenty of money though. I could have bought an Archmage or Cripple Moab this run, but I wanted to show you that you could win without them. This made the ending tougher than it needed to be, but we managed to pop the bad with $50,000 left over. Next up, we have the Super Storm strategy. We'll start off however the map requires, but we'll want to save up for Obyn as early as possible. This guy can carry the early game and will help our Druids later on. Then we'll want to defend the early rounds with Druids if possible. This strategy requires a lot of space, so we don't want to clutter the map with a bunch of different monkeys. I did this by backing Obyn up with 2 Druids, one with Thorn Swarm and the other popular as a 102 because we'll be making him a superstorm later on. This, combined with brambles, will be able to beat the 20s so we can focus farther down the road. I got a bit greedy and bought a 002 village to make some upgrades cheaper, but you can skip this if you need the money now. After the village, I upgraded our top druid to a 202 and the bottom one to a 013. This made us weak to camos, so we popped round 33 with brambles and upgraded our engineer to a 030 for round 36. This is easily avoided if you pick up a ninja, but like I said, we'll be tight on space, so I tried to avoid that. Once camos aren't an issue, we'll need to focus on the round 40 Moab. So we'll pick up 2 more Druids of Wrath and upgrade our top druid to a 302 for those blowback tornadoes. This should easily pop its outer layer, and the tornado will push the ceramics back, giving you more time to pop them. If you haven't already, get a village and upgrade it to a 202 for the 40s and place a wizard inside its range. This technically doesn't have to be a wizard, just something that excels at popping Moabs. But I like an arcane spike here because he gets buffed by Obyn and fits our magic monkeys theme. Anyway, upgrade this wizard to a 402, then work on getting 5 popless druids all in range of the druid of the storm. This will give us tons of popping power for a low cost and make his tornadoes be thrown more often and with more peers. Next, place down 1 or 2 berserker brews where there's space and start the save up for superstorm. You should be able to afford ball lightning in the early 60s, and this poplusted druid should tear apart ceramics and below, while your poplus and arcane spike will take care of the blimp. Unless you're on a difficult map, you shouldn't have any problems. I mean, our setup even took care of round 85 without any threat of leaking, and we purchased Superstorm right after the round. Once you get this tier 5 upgrade though, the run is basically over. Nothing will be able to push on him, so just get some single target monkeys for round 100. I removed a bunch of Corins so he could attack more often and speed up the rounds, but if time isn't an issue for you, spend that money on First Strikes or Spike Storm. As long as you can pop the Bad's outer layer in a reasonable time, you'll be just fine. On to our final strat, we have Rosalia and the Sky Shredder. While not the best combo, their flying synergy is fun to watch. Once again, get through the early rounds however you need to and save up for Rosalia. I like to start with a ninja as this solves the camo problem later on, but you don't have to. After Rosalia, we'll need to prep for round 40. I did this with a Bloon Jitsu and Berserker Brew. With this, you should easily pop the Moab, especially if you have Rosalia on laser mode, as she'll push it back when she gets her charged up shot. Plus, you can use her scatter missile ability on the ceramics inside. From here, we'll get a 220 village and place an ace inside its range and next to Rosalia's platform. This will make all of its upgrades cheaper and will make him a 401 Operation Dart Storm. At this point, use Rosalia's flight boost ability whenever it's off cooldown because it makes her a global hero and lets her use both of her weapons when active. Now, you might be able to save straight up for a Sky Shredder, but why risk it? Pick up a 420 aircraft carrier, upgrade your Elk to a stronger stim, and watch your towers dumpster the round. This will let you basically AFK until you can afford the Sky Shredder in the late 70s. If you're on a harder map though, you'll want to be on top of Rosalia's ability. Keep using flight boost whenever it's up, use scatter missile for any large ceramic rush, and use kinetic charge for any tanky blimp that you're scared of. And with these, you should be able to counter each round until you can afford the Sky Shredder. And from here, you can spend your money on whatever you want. I went back to the aircraft carrier and upgraded it to a carrier flagship to further buff the Sky Shredder, but even after that, we were only on round 83. You can go in any direction, but the most fun option in my opinion is to take advantage of Rosalia's discount to aces and heli pilots. So we bought a heli and upgraded it to a 205 com over the next dozen rounds. This gave us an insane amount of popping power for the late 90s, and we rounded out the strat by upgrading the village to a 230 MIB to let everything have the normal damage type, and this crushed round 100. But that was 5 fun strategies you can use to beat Chimps mode in BTD6. Here are 3 surprisingly good strategies. The first is a rare Ezili strat. The start doesn't really matter just so long as you get Ezili down around round 20. From here, we'll get a 022 wizard to handle most of the balloons, and we'll need a tower that can easily pop the outer layer of purples. I opted for a submarine, but a ninja also works just fine. Then we'll get a 230 bomb shooter and a 200 village to bolster our defenses and prepare for the mid game. It is at this point that we can just upgrade the wizard all the way to a 025 Prince of Darkness, which will be well before round 63 and close to the time that Ezili will start to increase the reanimated balloons pierce. Next, we'll get our village to a 220 and upgrade the bomb shooter to a 250 mob eliminator. This guy works great with the prince as the eliminator will pop all of the blimp layers while the pod will take care of all the ceramics that come flooding out. But on top of this, the eliminator's ability synergizes perfectly with Ezili's mob hex, as you just use both abilities and you'll one-shot many blimps per hex. This is shown especially well on round 96 where one hex popped all 6 ZOMGs. This plus just a little bit of support is more than enough to beat many maps with over 80k left over. But if you're looking for some fun, you can get an energizer and spend some money on Ezili to get her to level 20 so you can one-shot that bad like I did. The second strat we have is based all around hotshots and their great mob damage for a low price. So just like the last strat, start however you want. I prefer to get Sada down right away as she solos most of the early rounds, but Pat or Gwen wouldn't be bad options either. Anyway, we'll cruise through the early game with the nasty Village Overdrive Alchemist combo. This will carry us about to round 60, where we'll make our village a 5-2-0 primary expertise. This is a nice global tower that destroys ceramics as well as making our future spamming much cheaper. With that in mind, we'll buff it with a 2-0-0 village and start placing as many 3-0-2 tack shooters in its range as possible. Make sure to completely surround that track and watch the mob class balloons melt under the immense heat. From here, you're free to do whatever you want, though you should probably stick to primary monkeys to get the most out of the primary expertise. I personally saved up over 50 grand and got myself an Inferno Ring as I wanted 2 global projectiles, and the extra pierce the meteor gets from the village is very nice. Then I wrapped up the game by getting the other 2 tier 5 tack shooters and pretended like I was going for the tack paragon. And the final strat that we'll be doing is buffing Churchill with an Energizer. The main point of this strat is to get Churchill to as high a level as possible and have him do most of the damage. So we'll get him down ASAP, buy some efficient defenses like a 3-2-0 Buccaneer, and start working towards a 5-2-0 Submarine. Luckily, this is a pretty easy save up as these 3 towers do quite a bit of damage, but if you're on a harder map like Sanctuary, you'll have to bring in some more support like a downdraft Helipilot and a Summon Phoenix Wizard. Ideally, Churchill hits level 20 naturally, but this will only really happen on expert maps unless you dump some extra cash into him. So it's best and most fun to do the strat on a map like Sanctuary, where his attacks do tons of damage and he gets that large experience multiplier. But as long as he hits level 20, his Mob Barrage ability will decimate mob class balloons, even the bad, and his attacks will take care of the rest. This Robo-Monkey strategy is insanely strong, can beat the hardest maps on Chimps, and it's super simple. We'll start off however the map requires and work towards placing Geraldo. You don't have to rush this, just get him down before round 20. After Geraldo's down, you can get any mid-game towers to hold off the balloons while we get this strat rolling. You can get whatever you want, but some good ones include a 2-0-3 Submarine, a 3-0-2 Spectre, or a Dragon's Breath Wizard. Feel free to buff any of them with a 3-0-0 Alchemist, and they'll destroy the balloons for the time being. Once we have a couple of these towers down, we'll place 3 discount villages. Where all these discounts overlap, we'll place 4 or 5 Dart Monkeys right next to each other. Once one of them is completely surrounded, use Geraldo's Worn Hero Cape on him to upgrade the Dart Monkey to a Super Monkey. It's important to pick the one that is surrounded because the cape makes their footprint bigger and we want to fit as many monkeys in the triple discount area as possible. This will bring us to round 47 where we'll use Geraldo's Camo Potion on the Super Monkey to help out with camo balloons. From here, upgrade the Super Monkey to either a 2-3-0 or a 0-3-2 Robo Monkey. It's your choice, but I think we can all agree that the 2-3-0 is cooler. Anyway, this will be pretty cheap due to all the discounts and you should get it around round 50. This will be a huge power spike and you should start crushing the rounds. Now we'll just make one of the villages a 2-0-2 and the other a 0-2-2 so you can get that attack speed increase and permanent camo detection. From here, place down a few more Dart Monkeys, bringing your total to 6 or 7, including the one that's already a Robo Monkey. Try to also leave room for an Alchemist, an Ice Monkey, and a Glue Gunner. You can choose to place these right now like I did and save their spot, or you can risk it and get them later. Remember to pack everything in tight and start upgrading the Dart Monkeys to Super Monkeys. You want to make one of these Super Monkeys a 0-3-2 so purple balloons won't be a problem in the future, and then make the rest of them 2-3-0s. As you're upgrading them, make sure to change their targeting priority to first and close for the best results. The super nice thing about this strategy is that the Worn Hero Cape comes off cooldown right as you finish upgrading the previous Super Monkey. This allows you to constantly be spending all of your money to make your defenses even stronger, and you shouldn't have an issue with any round after 50. Once you're done with your Robo Monkeys, upgrade your Alchemist to a 4-0-1 Stronger Stimulant, your Ice Monkey to a 4-1-0 Embrittlement, and the Glue Gunner to a 0-1-3 Mob Glue. This will provide a ton of extra damage and utility to the Robo Monkeys, letting them clean up the rounds. This should take you to round 90-ish, where you can put all of Geraldo's spicy potions on as many Robo Monkeys as possible. This will add a ton of extra damage that'll last the rest of the game. From here, the rest is really easy. On round 95, put a Genie down to help out with the DDTs and round 96. Then on round 98, place down another Genie to help with it and round 99. And finally, get a first strike for round 100. You should have some extra money, so feel free to use Blade Traps or a Mazo Glue if you're worried, but my personal favorite is to use Geraldo's Rejuvenation Potion position to let me first strike again, doing tons of damage to the bad. Overall, my favorite parts of this strategy are that there are no big save ups due to the cheap upgrades, it is very strong from rounds 50 and up, there's almost no micro, and it is super flexible as you can do whatever you want in the early game. The only downsides are that it does need a good amount of space to fit everything, and it's kind of a slow start with the 3 villages. But with this Robo Monkey strategy, you should be able to crush plenty of maps. There are some weird strats in BTD6, and we're going to cover them today, moving from quirky to outright bizarre. First is the Master Bomber. An alternative to the Grandmaster Ninja strategy, this one revolves around global damage. All you need to do is buff a Master Bomber with 20 Shinobis, and you can watch him do the rest. I mean, the sheer speed at which he throws his sticky bombs out at is insane, and the Shinobis will handle all the super ceramics with their knockback. If you want to take this to the next level, you can make a Call to Arms village, or give some Shinobis Jerry Fire's potion for extra damage, but on longer maps like this one, that won't be needed at all. One fun thing that I like to do is get Caltrops on as many Shinobis as possible, as they make for a pseudo Perma Spike. Up next, we have the Pop and Awe and Mob Eliminator combo. This one works surprisingly well, especially when paired with Striker Jones. You can do whatever you want in the early game, but in the 40s and 50s, I like to pair our artillery battery with an overdrive, as it'll pop all the mobs while the mortar handles the ceramics. From here, you can save all the way up to the Pop and Awe, and then get some support like a 420 sniper. This is about the time where the overdrive isn't enough anymore, so you'll want to pick up a Mob Eliminator for those tough blimps. After that, get some Mob presses and glue for support, and watch the balloons melt. What I like to do is spam the Eliminator's ability and save the Pop and Awe's for tough rounds, and if you're ever in a pickle, just use Striker Jones level 10 ability to instantly refresh abilities and use the Pop and Awe's stun again. For our third strat, we have the Sub Commander and Ballistic Missiles. This one's nice because you can start off with 2 subs and work towards Brickle right away. Once she's down, get one of the subs to a reactor and the other to a 032 ballistic missile. If needed, you can place other monkeys like a sniper down to make the rounds easier, but they're not needed. This should carry you to the 40s, where we'll get 2 discount villages as close to the subs as possible, meaning you might have to get a snowstorm down like I did. Once placed, get jungle drums and place down 5 more ballistic missile subs. This will destroy the mid game and let us save up for a 205 sub commander. From here, the round should be pretty easy. Just get the standard support monkeys and a first strike submarine, and this will be more than enough to take down the bad. Next, we have the Powakai. This one's weird because it's completely independent of your hero, your starting strategy, and you don't buff it with anything. So just get through the early game however possible, and place a 320 Spectre and a 300 Alchemist at the end of the track, as that'll be helpful later. Around the mid 40s, we'll get down our first Beast Handler and make him a 003. If you need help with leads, you can always pick up an Addosaurus like I did, but you don't have to. From here, we'll get 2 more Golden Eagles and merge them with our first one, as this will allow it to pick up mobs, making the run much easier. From here, we'll upgrade our Spectre to a 420 and then upgrade our main Beast Handler to a Giant Condor. We want to get this guy to a Powakai, meaning we'll need to merge 3 other giant condors with him. You should be able to get this around round 80, and on round 85, you should be able to pick up this tier 5 upgrade and coast until round 100. Now you'll have about 60 grand to mess around with, but the easiest thing to do is to get a Mob Eliminator to pop the bad. Onto a weirder strat, we have Perma Brew Destroyers. The recent change to Grape Shot has made destroyers work worse with stronger stim, but a bit better with Perma Brew. We'll start off however necessary, but on water heavy maps, I usually go with a sub and a Dart Monkey. Then just work on getting Brickle, a discount village, a Berserker Brew Alchemist, and a Destroyer before round 40. And you can turn that starting sub into a Submergent support for cheap camo detection. At this point, the rounds will be pretty easy, but we'll need a bit more to save up for Permabrew. So upgrade that sub to a reactor, pick up 3 more destroyers, and then pop some balloons until you can upgrade your alchemist to a 501. This will turn all of our destroyers into absolute monsters, and we still have 20 rounds to buy more monkeys. So just get a little bit of support and as many more destroyers as you want. This is very overkill, to the point where you'll shred round 98 without needing any abilities, and rounds 99 and 100 aren't much harder. If you like Dartling Gunners, then this next one is for you. After the early game, just get 2 discount villages and work towards placing 5 plasma accelerators in their range, all buffed by a stronger stim alchemist. Now these guys have a hefty price tag, so it'll take quite a while, but in the 80s and 90s, you'll have plenty of money for support monkeys. Just fill out the villages with some Mob presses, a Mob glue, downdraft, and embrittlement, and you'll be good to go. The nice thing about these plasma accelerators is that downdraft works great with them, as you can have the helipilot follow your mouse too, and it'll instantly blow back any super ceramics that come out of the blimps that the plasma accelerators are popping. One thing to note before trying this is that it requires a ton of open space and micro to get the most out of your Dartling Gunners. Next, we have the buffed cripple Mob strat. This guy recently got a huge damage buff, making him a weird support staller that does decent damage. Just like the last strat, we'll want an open map, but this time we'll need some early game towers to get us started. I went with a reactor, Quincy, and a 2-2-0 sniper. Then I buffed them with a 2-0-2 village and a stronger stim alchemist. This will be great for the mid game, and you can even save straight up for the cripple mob if you're willing to micro the sniper a bit. If you don't want to manage him though, you can always get an elite sniper by the alchemist first and then save up for the cripple. Anyway, after the cripple mob, buff it with an overclock and watch this thing do work. I left him on strong most of the time, but switched it to first if ceramics ever got too far. To buff this guy even more, you can get an elite sniper, but if you're on an easy map like this one, you can just move on to the final stage of picking up a super ceramic specialist. My favorite two options are a glaive lord or prince of darkness, but I'm sure you could get away with other monkeys too. Anyway, this buffed cripple mob will do tons of damage to any blimps headed your way, and once the bad comes, the debuff it applies makes the bad melt once he hits the rest of your defenses. It's kind of funny that the best aspect of our main damage dealer is the damage amplifier he applies to the affected balloons. Next, we have two total transformation strategies that are pretty unique to say the least. Normally, total transformation takes advantage of Populous Druids or Shinobi Ninjas as their special buffs persist through the transformation. This is one of the best strats in the game, especially if you pair it with Geraldo and his rejuvenation potions, but there are other special monkey buffs we can use. The first of which are ice monkeys, who receive a 50% attack speed buff when the absolute zero uses its ability. So all you need to do is transform 5 ice monkeys right after freezing the screen with the absolute zero. Not only do we have oodles of damage, but we also freeze the balloons inside the transformed monkey's range. And once they turn back to normal, they'll stall the balloons for you, letting all the abilities come off cooldown. As for the other fun monkey buff, it's with the Grand Saboteur. When his ability is active, all Shinobi Ninjas get extra range and mob damage. So you can use the classic Shinobi buff for the transform monkeys, but take it a step farther by picking up a Grand Saboteur. The only thing is that your money is better spent on a call to arms if you're strictly going for performance, but a Grand Sabo is definitely more fun. And for the final strat, we have the XXXL Trap, a farming tower that can be the center point of your chimp strategy. Though he won't make any extra money, he'll gobble up any balloons smaller than a bat. The nice thing is that the Double Gun Engineer is a great early game tower, so you can pair him with just about anything and then upgrade him to a 0-1-4, targeting his traps in places where the track overlaps. Next, we'll get a couple towers that'll let us save up money and can help us with super ceramics later on, and some great choices for this are a 0-2-4 Dartling Gunner and a Spiked Balls Spactory. This will let us save all the way up for the big trap upgrade, making our engineer a 0-1-5. Then we can spend the rest of our money on support, as we want to stall those blimps long enough for the traps to be replaced over and over again. This will let the engineer one-shot almost every blimp, and the Dartling Gunner will handle anything that does manage to sneak through. And to wrap this thing up, we'll need a bit of help for round 100, so pick up a first strike and the bad will be a thing of the past. I searched Reddit for some underrated strategies, and this is what I found. First was the Dragon's Breath Army. This is super simple, as all you have to do is surround Gwendolyn with a swarm of 0-3-2 wizards, and they take care of the rest. You can take this even further by getting 2 discount villages, making them very affordable. But Gwen's passive buff to these fire breathers made them a force to be reckoned with. There was just one obvious weakness: purples. But that was easily countered with a Bloontonium reactor up front, so we never had to worry about that again. Next, we got an alchemist and a few more wizards. 5 more in fact, and the balloons didn't stand a chance. This not only let us skip a MIB, but actually allowed us to save up the $65,000 for a Perma alchemist on round 88. After that, it was all downhill for the balloons. We only got a few more wizards and watched the balloons melt under the heat of all this napalm. I mean, not even round 98 made it around the first bend. Up next, we have a balloon exclusion zone with a MIB skip. Something I don't do very often, but I'm aware how strong it can be if pulled off correctly. The start doesn't really matter, but I used a Dart Monkey and Submarine to help me get Pat Fusty down early. For whatever reason, I did the completely unnecessary and greedy double discount village. Apparently I wanted a tough early game, but with these discounts, we quickly got a 2-0-3 Dartling Gunner and a 3-2-0 Alchemist up and running. This carried until we could afford the bads, and he was instantly set to target independent, so we never had to micro him again. Normally, I would turn our our 022 village into a mib, but that was not the point of this run. When you have the space like we do here, you can do something even better than getting a monkey intelligence bureau, and that's giving your main damage dealer their own personal acidic mixture dip alchemists. So we got 4 2-0 elks that were only in range of the Dartling Gunner. This gives us a 100% uptime on AMD, which not only gives the Dartling Gunner lead popping power, but also extra damage to ceramics, mobs, and fortified leads. This was so strong that rounds 63 and 64 barely got on screen and was more than enough to save up for the Bloon exclusion zone, which we got on round 82. Now, there were many upgrades I wanted to get, but this was already enough to win, leaving us with almost $74,000 left over. In fact, had I put our submarine on submerged mode earlier, we would have accidentally pulled off a 2 megapops challenge. Moving on, we have the incredibly expensive super mines. Not the easiest thing to save up for, but that's nothing a mob glue, Dragon's Breath wizard, and Sada can't handle. Luckily, the combo of glue and Sada outputs some crazy damage, and the Dragon's Breath is great for how cheap it is. Then we just had to put our spike factory near the end of the track and save up. The nice thing about this guy is that it specializes in taking out ceramics, especially when buffed by a berserker brew, and that was really the only thing that was getting past Sada and the wizard. It took some time, but in the middle of round 99, we were finally able to afford the upgrade. Just in time too, because those fortified DDTs were definitely going to get through. But round 100 didn't stand a chance. Shifting gears, we have the artillery battery army. Interesting, as I never use mortar monkeys, but I'll give it a shot. The obvious hero to choose was Striker Jones because of his global buffs to mortar monkeys, and my only other plan was to put a snowstorm in the dead center to really stall those super ceramics later on. Now for spamming mortar monkeys. I got a 202 village in the top right and placed 3 artillery batteries in its range. This was plenty of damage, especially since Striker can reset their cooldowns if needed with his level 10 ability. We got one of them to a Papana and buffed them all with a 401 Alchemist. Now all we have to do was place as many mortars as possible. Fast forward to around 99 and I had 8 artillery batteries, 1 Papana, and a signal flare. I planned on getting this guy to a shattering shells, but it wasn't needed. We absolutely crushed the bad and used a clean 100 abilities in the process. Now let's dive into something new. A beginner strat that was used to give him his first CHIMPS win. It actually had a decent foundation. Sada for the early game, a mob assassin for blimp damage, and a ton of bionic boomerangs for generic damage. On top of this, we got to buff them all with our primary mentoring village, giving us some free upgrades and extra popping power on most of our monkeys. Now, this would struggle with super ceramics, but he paired everything with 6 Bloon impacts, which will bring them all to a halt. Then we got a shattering shells and 2 main mob snipers. This is a ton of support, mostly around stalling, but it's time for some more damage. And he picked the cool choice of upgrading all our boomers to 042 turbo charges. A surprisingly effective option, as you could always activate a few abilities in a time of need and still have a ton left over for the future. Now, I would have opted for only 1 main mob, a couple boomerangs, and gotten some cool tier 5 upgrades like the mob eliminator, permacharge, and primary expertise, but that wouldn't have been a unique strategy, and this, as is, was able to take down the bad in a way that reminds me of how people take down quad. And last but not least, we have the axis of glue, meaning we're going to get all 3 tier 5 glue gunners. The early game was easy as we just went for Geraldo, a ninja, and an alchemist, and then placed a primary mentoring village. Next, it was time to get all 3 glue gunners down and turn the one up front into a 420 Bloon liquefier. This will be great damage for the mid game as his puddles destroy the ceramic rushes soon to come. After that, we got our second glue gunner to a mob glue for a nice slow, and place a necromancer up front so that his graveyard will always be full, and we'll have his Bloon spawn at the end of the track for a last line of defense. This was plenty to save up for the Bloon solver, which greatly increased our damage. Now, our only problem was ZOMGs and fortified BFBs, which is why we were running Geraldo. We placed all 4 of his bunnies for some global damage and saved up for a super glue. Once purchased, this made everything super easy to take down, allowing us to pick up our final tier 5 glue gunner on round 92, completing the axis of glue. Not quite sure what to do from here, we upgraded our village to a primary expertise for even more global damage, and then we picked up a second stronger stim alchemist. Finally, we wrapped up the run by placing 2 genies on round 99 to help us out with the final 2 rounds. Probably not needed, but it was nice not having to worry about the bad slowly swimming its way all the way through. But those were 6 unique strategies that I found on r/BTD6.
Perma Spike stalling is one of, if not the best strat in the game, taking down even the hardest maps like Sanctuary, Bloodles, and Ravine. I'm going to break down what makes it so good and how to set it up to get some easy black borders in this video. To start, its main calling card is its incredible versatility. You can start with whatever monkeys and hero you want. The setup is cheap enough to get it easily in the mid game, and it deals crazy amounts of damage at the end. The only real downside is the anxiety of going into rounds 98 through 100 hoping that your spike pile is big enough. But let's get into the meat of this strategy. We're going to be building this around the 025 spike factory. This puts down powerful spike piles on the track that last for 4 rounds or 300 seconds, whichever comes first. Knowing this, we want that pile to be full for the start of every round, so most of our towers will be used to slow down the balloons, giving the Perma Spike plenty of time to lay down the spikes. When starting a game, the opening is completely up to you, so do whatever the map requires. Whether that be 3 darts, a dart and a sub, or opening with a hero, it does not matter. That being said, if the map allows it, I recommend going Pat Fusty as his knockback extend rounds even longer. But the opening can be the tricky part for beginners because many expert maps have very specific starts, but in all the beginner and intermediate maps, the start can consist of something generic like a hero, Bloonjitsu Ninja, Sun Avatar, Stronger Stimulant, and a village. This will transition nicely into a Perma Spike for the early 80s. And that is the beauty of stalling strats. You don't even need to get your Perma Spike down until around round 85, as this is when the super ceramics and big blimps really come out to play. So, once your mid-game defenses are up and running, place down a spike factory as far back as you can, buff it with a 202 village, and upgrade it to a 025. This crosspathing will improve the spike production by 79%, and it synergizes with other buffs incredibly well. So, once it's a 025, we'll buff it with a 420 alchemist to get that extra pierce, damage, and attack speed, and then get a 040 engineer so we can overclock this factory. With these buffs on it, it'll be placing a ton of spikes per round, but we are not done yet. Next, we will employ various techniques of slowing down the balloons. To start, we will get a 013 glue gunner and 3 204 boomerangs to slow down every blimp that comes in. To delay the balloons, we will get a 032 helipilot and park it right before the spike piles. Then, the dirtiest play of them all will be getting a 402 sniper set to last. This will stall 1 mob class balloon at the very start of the track for a long time. This will be more than enough damage to carry you through the endgame, but if you want an even easier time, you can spend the rest of your money on bad and DDT damage. Some common towers to get for this are the first strike subs and 240 spike factories. Obviously, some maps will require something special, like Bloodles needs a 042 helipilot to move around this factory, but most of the time, the endgame is hands-off and easy. But hopefully this opened your eyes to one of the more OP strats in the game, and it will help you black border some more maps.
Here are 3 amazing beast handler strategies. The first is with the T-Rex. A big thing with this path is that the tier 3 and up do more damage to stun balloons, so we're going to pair our beast handler with Pat Fusty as his slaps stun them once he's a high enough level. Luckily, the start of this strategy is very flexible, so just get through the early game however possible and place Pat down so he can start getting experience. Once Pat's down, put an Adasaurus next to him, and if you're struggling at this point, you can buff Pat with an Alchemist and you should be fine. Next, we'll get down 2 002 villages and a Cleansing Foam Engineer. This will decamo all the balloons, and we're making it an overclock later on. On easier maps, you could probably get away with a radar scanner, but I was doing this on Blondes for some reason. Anyway, make one of these villages a 202, and then we'll upgrade our beast handler to a 030. At this point, make the Alchemist a 300 if you haven't already. After this, we'll place 2 beast handlers down in range of both villages, making them 030s, and merge them with our first beast handler. The nice thing about these guys is that they do not need to be close to the track, so you don't have to waste valuable real estate on them. From here, I got a downdraft helipilot, but this could probably be skipped on most maps. After that, we'll make our main beast handler a 040 T-Rex. You should be able to afford this in the mid-50s, where it'll tear everything apart with ease. This upgrade makes it a level 32 out of 64, so our next goal is to get it to max level. A super cheap way to do this is to get 4 more Velociraptors and merge them with the T-Rex. If you can get them in range of both discount villages, a 030 beast handler only costs $3,445 on Chimps, which is about a third of the price of just the T-Rex upgrade. And the reason we have this option is because we won't have enough money to get a Gigantosaurus, so we don't need to get 4 T-Rex handlers. This max level T-Rex will absolutely destroy the balloons, soloing the likes of round 76 and 78, but now we need to make his stunning partner a bit better. To do this, we'll upgrade our Cleansing Foam to a 040 Overclock Engineer and use its ability on Pat Fusty. Because Pat won't hit level 20 this run, Overclock will have a 100% uptime on him, making his stuns much more consistent. This will slow the balloons as well as making our T-Rex deal that extra damage more often. After that, you can go for a tier 5 of your choice. I opted for a 502 Mortar Monkey because we needed some more blimp damage for 98 and I wanted to stun the balloons even more. This worked great, and after that I only needed a little more support. I got a 024 Relentless Glue, upgraded the second village to a 032 Mib, and I got 2 Spike Storms for round 100. But as you can see, anything smaller than a bat doesn't move much with this strategy, even making the likes of Bloons pretty easy. The second strategy is all about the Powakai. This time, neither the hero nor the start matter, so pick your favorite. I went with Sada just to make the early game a piece of cake, but you do you. Once you get through the early game, we'll want a couple of cheap towers that specialize in big save-ups. Two that come to mind are a 302 Spike Factory and a Summon Phoenix Wizard. These two will tear apart any rushes coming your way, and the Phoenix ability will bail you out if you ever get in trouble. Buff these two with a Jungle Drums Village, and it's time to build our big bird. Start with 2 Horned Owls, merge them, and work towards a Golden Eagle. This is where the bird starts to get useful, but it'll still pale in comparison to the other monkeys you have down. We'll want this eagle to be max level, so get down a 3rd Beast Handler, make them all 003s, and merge them into one level 24 Golden Eagle. This will bring you to round 63, where all you need to do is summon a Phoenix for the first 2 ceramic rushes and use a hero ability for the 3rd rush. Around this time, we'll have enough money to upgrade our eagle to a giant condor, and the run gets really easy. This guy can pick up and move BFBs, so just make sure its green circle is as far forward as possible and you'll be set. From here, upgrade your other 2 Beast Handlers to 004s, and then place down a 4th and final Beast Handler. We want this guy to be really far forward so our bird has tons of range and can be the only one attacking at the start of the track. Once placed, upgrade this final Beast Handler to a 004 and save up for the Powakai upgrade. This should be relatively easy, especially if you put your giant condor on strong, as it'll basically solo BFBs. In the mid 80s, you'll be able to afford this tier 5 upgrade, and you shouldn't have to worry about a thing for quite some time, especially if you change its targeting back to first. I didn't spend any extra money for the rest of the run, and I was able to win with over $61,000 left over. The final strategy revolves around the Orca and its incredible single target damage. Like the other strategies, the start doesn't matter, but I recommend over defending, as this strat is so cheap that you might as well make your life easy. I did a minimalist run and one where I spent more money early on, and both runs I got our tier 5 monkeys online with plenty of time left. So don't worry about it and just make sure to place your monkeys near some water. After you have your defenses down, get 2 discount villages, one with jungle drums and the other will become a mib later on. Then we will get 3 great white beast handlers, merge them together and set it to strong. This thing will destroy any mobs coming your way for the foreseeable future, but it struggles against ceramic rushes. Because of this, we'll pair him with the king of cleanup, the Necromancer. Get a 024 wizard as close to the great white as possible. The reason for this is that the shark's range is smaller than the wizard, so when it drags blimps to their doom, it'll fill the wizard's graveyard. After you get the Necromancer, upgrade your great white to an Orca and watch it one-shot round 60. Not the toughest round, but man is that satisfying. Before getting the Orca to max level, you have 2 options. If you're worried about round 63, you can get some rush defense down, or you can depend on your hero's abilities. If you're on an easier map, you should be fine, but on advanced and expert ones, you'll probably need some help. Anyway, once we're past round 63, we'll save up for a Prince of Darkness, getting it in the mid to late 70s, which will make any rush a piece of cake. Next, we'll get down 4 more beast handlers, making them all great white. Once again, place these guys off to the side, but still in range of water and both villages. If done correctly, each one should only cost $3,660. Merge these guys with the Orca and this should make it max level, giving it the ability to one-shot ZOMGs and DDTs. From here, upgrade your village to a 032 and you'll be good for a while. On off the coast, I was good until round 98, where I had 64 grand to spend, and on downstream, I made it to round 100 with 70k in the bank. You can do whatever you want with this money, so on off the coast, I got an Inferno Ring, and on downstream, I got a Carpet of Spikes, both of which made for an easy finish. But those are 3 great strategies using the Beast Handler. The Pirate Lord received one of the biggest buffs of all time in Update 33.0, as its damage was raised across the board. This made it the best strategy on many maps, but recent nerfs have changed the public opinion. There's just one thing. This wasn't a nerf at all. In fact, it was a huge buff to the tier 3 and 4 pirates, making it easier to save up for the tier 5, and the Pirate Lord's DPS was actually increased. Proof of this is shown in CHIMPS' record-breaking least cost chimps run, where he had over $100,000 left to spend on Ouch, and the Pirate Lord was his main damage dealer. So why is the Pirate Lord still good, and what tips does CHIMPS have for us to get the most out of him? Well, until now, the faster shooting crosspath did not increase the firing rate of cannons for the middle path buccaneers, so the entire entire path just got a 33% attack speed buff to their cannon. To stop the Pirate Lord from being the greatest monkey of all time, Ninja Kiwi lowered the tier 5's cannon damage by about 40%. On the surface, this seems like a nerf. However, there's one thing about synergies that's often overlooked. Attack speed stacks multiplicatively and damage stacks additively. What does this mean? Well, a buff like Stronger Stim will make a tower attack 17.6% faster and provide +1 damage. So the buff doesn't care about how fast something attacks, though the less damage a tower does on its own, the larger increase in DPS Stronger Stim will provide. Consider the fact that Acidic Mixture Dip also gives +1 damage to ceramics and mob class balloons, and the Pirate Lord's DPS actually increased after this so-called nerf. So now that we know the Pirate Lord is even better than before, what are some tips Chom can tell us? Well, the first is to keep it buffed with an Alchemist, as it is one of the best combos in the game. He stopped at a Berserker Brew to save money, but a Stronger Stim is even better. Side note, I have merch dropping soon, so if you're interested, be on the lookout for that. The next tip is to make sure to be running Brickle. Her naval tactics provide extra pierce, double attack speed, and the normal damage type, all of which greatly help the Pirate Lord. Additionally, she provides a passive pierce buff to water monkeys near her, and Mega Mines pair perfectly with the Pirate Lord. Just make sure to run a Snowstorm or two so you can freeze the massive rush of ceramics that'll come flooding out once the mines go off. To get more out of these mines, have a 0-2-2 Ice Monkey out front to stall the end of each round. This will let you stack a ton of Mega Mines as well as getting the rest of your abilities off cooldown. Additionally, you can get a Reactor or Energizer to decrease your cooldowns, letting you hook and mine more often. And you can put a Mob Glue out front to really clump up those Mob class balloons so you get even more value out of each Mega Mine. Finally, the Pirate Lord is better on certain maps. Make sure to run him where he can fire up balloons with both sides of his boat, as this will double his DPS. Some good options would be Haunted, Off the Coast, Spice Islands, and Rake. But with these tips, you should be able to crush tons of maps with the Pirate Lord. I got early access to the Mermonkey, and here are 3 amazing strats you need to use with it. For the first one, we'll be using its top path. This provides solid close range damage, but more importantly, it gives pierce to every monkey inside its range, similar to what a primary training village does with primary monkeys. Now, we just have to think of a few towers that would get much stronger with this extra pierce. The 2 I thought of were an aircraft carrier and inferno ring. For the early game, you can use whatever monkeys you want. I got by with a Dart Monkey and Buccaneer, but then we'll save up for Brickle. I figured if we're going to give the Buck extra pierce with the Mermonkey, we might as well also buff it with Brickle. Anyway, from here we'll get down a 202 Mermonkey, as the bottom crosspath gives it camo detection, which we'll use to pop the early couple camo rounds. Then we got down a 302 Tack Shooter, as that'll become the Infernal Ring later on, and upgraded our Mermonkey to a 302 Abyss Dweller. This is where it starts providing extra pierce to nearby towers, and every additional tier from here will provide more pierce. Then, in preparation for round 40, we got down a Jungle Drums Village and upgraded our Buck to a 310 Destroyer. This smoked round 40 and let us pick up Radar Scanner, Counter, and Camos for the rest of the game. Next up, we got the main character of the run, the Aircraft Carrier. We got him on round 47 and he instantly started tearing through the rounds. It was clear that this extra pierce on the planes would be a problem for the balloons, but we weren't done yet. On round 49, we made our Mermonkey an Abyssal Warrior, granting it even more pierce and let our planes fly free. Any round that's normally scary was a piece of cake. Round 55, the planes looked like they were one-shotting the waves. Round 63, the leads were insta-killed and the ceramics didn't last much longer. It certainly looked like the fire damage from these guys was buffed out of this world, but we're just going to chalk it up to the Mermonkey and Brickle. Really, the only rounds that gave us issues were those full of fortified Moabs or BFBs, but then we could just lean on Brickle's Mega Mines or even just a naval tactics to pop everything. On round 78, we had $48,000 to work with and we were still doing fine. But this brings us to the Inferno Ring, our late game damage dealer. We'll buff this guy with a stronger stim in primary training, as the more pierce this meteor gets, the better. This combo of towers absolutely smoked the 80s and early 90s to the point where we didn't have to do anything and we were just sitting on 51 grand, enough to make a perma brew. I was really tempted to purchase this, but our stronger stim was doing just fine. Instead, we'll get the Lord of the Abyss, the top path tier 5 upgrade for the Mermonkey, and then we'll work our way towards a primary expertise. We got this on round 96 and we were reaching near god boosted levels of pierce on the Inferno Ring. I mean, his meteors tore round 96 apart like it was nothing. The domination didn't stop there though, as the rest of the round was just as easy. The only thing that we slightly struggled with were the fortified DDTs on 99, but we solved that with a single Mega Mine. Other than that, we just coasted through round 100 and got a free win. If there is anything to take away from this run, it's that the Abyssal Warrior and Aircraft Carrier are a crazy good combo. Next up, we have the Poseidon strategy. Once again, we'll be running Brickle as she buffs water monkeys, but this time the Mer Monkey will be our main damage dealer. The start is just like last time. Place whatever monkeys you need to get past the early rounds and then place down Brickle. We'll wander near the end of the track for this one and have plenty of space for a few Mer Monkeys around her. If you need some lead popping power like I did, feel free to pick up a 100 sniper and set it to strong, but you can really solve this however you'd like. Maybe a 220 Buccaneer. Anyway, once you feel comfortable with your popping power, get down a few Mer Monkeys next to Brickle. We'll make them all 002s as that provides a stacking range buff with each other, similar to how Shinobi ninjas give each other attack speed and pierce. On top of this though, they'll all get seeking attacks and camo detection. Not a bad choice. We'll make our one up front a 022 as we'll upgrade his middle path later on, and the others you can cross path however you'd like. I honestly don't know what path is better yet, but you probably want at least one of each. After we get a few Mer Monkeys down, make one of them a 032 Riptide Champion. This will make its attacks much stronger, as the farther they travel, the bigger and more powerful they get. This is why we got seeking attacks and placed it near the back of the track. Now, just build a 202 village for extra attack speed and a discount. Then, place down however many Echo Sense Mer Monkeys you need for all of them to have 5 Echo Sense stacks. This will max out the buff, making them all more effective. Next, we'll make our Riptide Champion an Arctic Knight and buff him with a 300 Alchemist. This will be a massive boost in popping power, and you can start saving up for the tier 5 upgrade Poseidon. If you're on a harder map than this one, feel free to pick up a mid-game tower like an Aircraft Carrier, Robo Monkey, or Comanche Defense. Just know that the Arctic Knight crushes ceramics and below, so if you pick up something, make sure it can take out BFB and Moab layers. But between Brickle and the Arctic Knight's abilities, you should be able to beat most rounds pretty easily. Once you save up $56,000, purchase the Poseidon upgrade and watch as it can basically solo any round. This thing's damage is ridiculous, so you only need to give it support going forward. What I like to do is make a couple of our other Mer Monkeys into symphonic resonances. This upgrade makes them super similar to the Bloon chipper from previous Bloons games. Anything that is not a bat or ZOMG gets distracted by their song, causing for some crazy stalling potential. Plus, you can choose where the stall happens. Between just two of them, you can make sure basically nothing gets by. Instead, they'll just swirl around the shell that you can place down anywhere inside their range. This is so effective that on round 98, nothing even made it to our second shell. Poseidon was able to pop them all before anything made it past our first stalling Mer Monkey. But that'll bring us to round 100. If Poseidon has a weakness, it's the bad. Luckily for us, we have Brickle's Mega Mines and almost $69,000 to work with. So feel free to pick up a Moab Eliminator, First Strike Submarine, or some Spike Storms to take this guy out. But because we're on an easier map, we managed to pop it without any help and won with over 70 grand left over. On to the third and final strategy, we'll be using the stalling tactics of the bottom path. Once again, the start really doesn't matter, just get through the beginning with whatever's necessary. This time though, we'll save up for Pat Fusty and place him down near the end of the track. This guy is amazing at stalling balloons, and when combined with the Mer Monkey, his stuns will be devastating. From here, we'll get down an early game tower like an Airburst Dart Submarine, Bloonjitsu Ninja, or a Destroyer. Then we'll get a 023 Spectre near the end of the track and buff it with a Berserker Brew. This guy will become a Perma Spike later on and will be our last line of defense in the late game. Next, get down a 220 village so Pat Fusty can see camos and make the Spectre a 024 Deadly Spikes. This should bring us to the mid-40s where it's finally time to get down our Mer Monkey. We'll make it a 204 as fast as possible and target its song right around Pat. Try not to do what I did and have the tier 3 song send the balloons right into your spike piles, as this could bite you in the butt if you're not careful. Once we have our tier 4 Mer Monkey down, we'll need a mid-game tower. Feel free to use any of the towers we listed in the last strat, but I'm a fan of the Summon Phoenix Wizard here. We'll place him right next to Pat Fusty, as he'll be able to attack the balloons while they're stuck in the song, as well as receive Pat's Roar buff anytime we use his ability. And if you can swing it, try to make the balloons pass over his wall of fire while they're looping around the shell. But once we get the Summoned Phoenix, we'll start saving up for the Perma Spike. Even though we don't have the most popping power, it shouldn't be an issue, as the balloons will take so long to get to the end of the track because they have to go through Pat's stuns, slaps, and the Mer Monkey's song. And if they do get through, we should have a max size spike pile waiting for them. Just make sure to use Summon Phoenix and or Pat's Roar anytime you think the balloons are getting too far. But because the song affects BFBs and lower, you shouldn't really have a problem, as we'll be able to afford the Perma Spike in the mid 70s before any ZOMG shows up. Once we've made the 025 factory, we'll upgrade its personal alchemist to a 420 and get down some more stalling towers. I personally like a 024 glue gunner and two 024 mob presses set to strong, as this will bring our stalls to the next level, making the factory that much better. After we have all these down, get a 040 engineer and overclock this factory whenever it's available. This makes the Perma Spike ridiculously strong and will have a near impenetrable wall of spikes at the end of the map. From here, you can get whatever you want, but I think the best choice of all is the final harmonic, the bottom path tier 5 upgrade for the Mermonkey. It'll now be able to stall up to ZOMGs, which is great for the 90s, but also reduces Pat Fusty's cooldown, increases his range, and gives our wizard extra pierce. A win-win-win. This allows you to use Pat Fusty's hug while the song is stunning all the ZOMGs, so you can break one of them down to BFBs without worrying about them not being stunned. With this upgrade, our only real fear is pierce capping the song, but in my experience this only happened on round 98, and even with this, the Perma Spike was easily able to clean up everything. But this will take you to round 100. Once again, you'll have some money to spend on anti-bad measures, but honestly, this factory should be able to take out its outer layer and the song will do the rest, giving you another easy win. A bonus fun strat you can do is add the Lord of the Abyss or a final harmonic to an Avatar of Wrath strat to give the Druids more pierce, something that is super helpful in round 98. But that was 3 amazing Mermonkey strategies that you should use in BTD6. The first strategy is why Sai is one of, if not the best hero for expert maps. To start, we'll get the necessary towers to beat the first few rounds and beeline it for Sai as we want them to start getting experience as early as possible. Then, we'll surround them with incredibly strong early game towers like a submarine and a sniper as Sai struggles early game but makes up for it with their incredible power mid and late game. We'll upgrade our sub and sniper so that we are comfortable beating the round 40 mob, and then the real fun begins. We'll place down a 002 village to save us some money and get a 032 downdraft heli pilot. This is one of the best dollars in the game and gives us plenty of time to pop tough balloons like ceramics. After that, we'll get jungle drums, place a dartling gunner, and upgrade it all the way to a 420 plasma accelerator. The nice thing is that you can perfectly micro both the heli pilot and the dartling gunner at the same time, as you'll typically want them in the same spot as one deals damage and the other stalls balloons. Then we'll upgrade our sniper to a 420, and this guy will slow mob class balloons, letting us pick them off one by one with Sai and the dartling gunner. At this point, all we need is a cryo cannon or two and we're in business. This alone will carry you to the mid 90s if you keep up with your microing and use Sai's abilities when needed. In general, use their stun when a big rush is near Sai and use their scream when something is definitely going to leak. But with this, you can easily save up $60,000 to $80,000 for whatever tier 5 you want to purchase. Just to prove a point, I saved up 86 grand in this run and got a Ray of Doom for funsies. One interesting thing is that this works better on harder maps, as that experience multiply for Sai is very beneficial in helping them pop bigger and bigger balloons. And because we are running the plasma accelerator, this is for maps with only one active track at a time, like Infernal or Muddy Puddles. The next strategy is with Pat Fusty, and we'll be turning him into a pseudo Bloon Crush by constantly overclocking him. The fun thing is that you can do whatever you want for the early and mid game, just make sure to get Pat down at a reasonable time to give him some experience. In fact, none of your choices really matter until you get to around 70 plus, which is about the time we'll get down a 040 engineer and use his overclock on Pat Fusty whenever it's available. The nice thing is that overclock's duration depends on Pat's level, and it has a 100% uptime or more until he's level 20, which Pat does not hit in a normal Chimps game. So just make sure to keep refreshing it and Pat will be juiced up the entire game. This is nice and all, but what does it do for us? Well, overclock gives roughly a 67% boost in attack speed to affected towers, which is especially effective on Pat for 2 reasons. The first is that every 5 attacks, Pat slaps balloons and mobs backwards along the track, buying you tons of time. And the second is that every single one of his attacks stuns balloons for 0.5 seconds and blimps for 0.2 seconds. So if we buff Pat Fusty with jungle drums and overclock, he'll be permanently stunning balloons and just about perma-stalling blimps, with the main limiting factor being his pierce. But even that does not limit him too much. So to take advantage of this slow, you can pair him with one of his classic combos like the 21 ninjas, or you can end the track with a Perma Spectre, as he will stall the balloons for so long that you will always have a massive pile of spikes at the end of the track. And the final strat we have revolves around Brickle. This one utilizes her new passive ability to give extra pierce to all water monkeys in her radius. To take most advantage of this, we'll be rushing 2 destroyers in the mid game, making them 3/2/0s, as Brickle's pierce buff affects the grape shots as well, meaning Brickle can buff all 24 of each destroyer's projectiles. This is a massive increase, as each grape only has 1 pierce, and the destroyers are already one of the best balloon poppers for how cheap they are. So 2 destroyers combined with Brickle absolutely destroys the mid game for a super low price and gives you options. The normal strategy with her is to stall with downdraft and ice monkeys so you can load the water with mines and end the track with spikes, but here's something new and maybe even better. Right after we get our second destroyer, we'll rush a 5-2-0 primary expertise village. This may seem odd as we have no primary towers yet, but it's very handy as we can afford it before round 63, which is the first round that causes us some problems. With this, we'll be just fine on defenses for quite some time, and we'll work on getting a 2-5-0 absolute zero ice monkey. This guy applies a super slow to everything on screen whenever its ability is activated, and it applies permafrost to every affected balloon. On top of this, the primary expertise drastically reduces its cooldown, letting us spam the ability, making for some super slow balloons for us to pop. This is usually where the synergies stop, but there's one more fun interaction that I like to do. You see, the absolute zero slow does not pierce blimp layers, so as you pop them, they speed back up. But one thing that I found to be very helpful is to use Brickle's Mega Mine to break every blimp down one layer and instantly use the absolute zero's ability right afterwards. This way, you break all the hard layers, but also counter the rush of smaller balloons that come flooding out. And the cooldown is so short on the slow that you can have it back up and running by the next Mega Mine. Additionally, these towers are so cheap that you can afford another tier 5 monkey or two. So I normally upgrade one of my destroyers to a carrier flagship for some global damage and then place a 2-5-0 mob eliminator on top to handle the bad. But with these strategies, you should have no problem beating chimps with these three heroes. The first strat is all about using the Spirit of the Force newfound attack damage, making him rival the Avatar of Wrath. So we'll start the map however necessary and then get down Obyn as quickly as possible. After that, we'll get up a 1-3-0 Druid of the Jungle to handle the early game and support it with 1 to 2 Druids of Wrath. This will easily be enough to handle any bloon sent your way, with their only weakness being camos. So either upgrade a ninja to a bloon jutsu, or you can opt for spamming brambles and getting an early camo village like I did here. After that, we'll get down 3 to 4 more Druids of Wrath and slowly start upgrading them to Populus. This is exactly what you'd do if you were running an Avatar of Wrath, but upgrading our Druid of the Jungle to a Spirit of the Force has several benefits over that guy. The first being the price. The Spirit of the Force is about $11,000 cheaper than the Avatar. It naturally pops lead balloons due to our crosspathing, and it gets global damage thanks to its vines that grow on the track. On top of this, the Spirit's main attack damage was just buffed from 2 to 20 damage, making it a super reliable damage dealer, especially when getting buffed by Populusts. This differs slightly from the Avatar, whose attack varies based on the RBE on screen, but can reach 30 damage per shot while also attacking faster. So you're sacrificing top-end damage for reliability, a cheaper price tag, and early to mid-game domination. Plus, if you're not on chimps, the Spirit also generates you some extra cash and lives. Anyway, with just this setup, we can make it to around 98 and have about $85,000 to spend. And this is where it gets nice. You can actually afford to make one of your Populus Druids into an Avatar of Wrath if you wish. I like to do this because we already have the Populus to buff it, so why not? Just make sure to make your village a Mib, as it can't pop leads like the Spirit can, and then feel free to purchase any other damage dealers and or support monkeys, as this will be more than enough to get you that dub. The next strat is all about stalling, but not the traditional ceramic stalling that you're used to. Oh no, this is about stalling mob class balloons until they pop. Once again, the start doesn't matter, just make sure to get Churchill down at a reasonable time. The funny thing about him is that can mean getting him on around 27 and you'll be just fine. After that, get a monkey that can handle ceramic balloons, as that'll be our weakness. I opted for a middle path boomerang, but you do you. Next, we'll get down a 2-2-0 village and 3 to 4 mob press boomerangs all set to strong. These do a surprising amount of damage on top of their main goal of stalling any blimps headed our way. At this point, the only scary thing are dense packs of ceramics, so work on getting your main damage dealer up to a tier 5. This can be a rather expensive one too, as Churchill's ability plus some support will be able to handle rounds like 63 just fine, and the mob presses will take care of tough rounds like 64. But once that's done, we'll upgrade our village to a 5-2-0 primary expertise for even more ceramic damage and buffs to our boomerangs. Speaking of which, it's time to get down 6 to 10 more mob press boomers, all set to strong. At this point, you should be making them all 204s, as we need that extra pierce for rounds like 98. After that, we'll only need a bit of support, so slap down a 0-2-3 glue gunner, a 2-4-0 ice monkey or two, and maybe even a main mob sniper if you're feeling spicy. Just make sure to put the primary monkeys in range of the pecs, as you'll get the first 2 upgrades free. Then just coast to victory and enjoy watching rounds like 98 suffer, because that's what this lineup was made for. And the final strat might be the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, as it uses the Bloon Solver. Here, you can use any hero you want, but I prefer Sada, as she absolutely destroys the early game on most maps. After that, get some general damage like an Overdrive Tack Shooter and a Berserker Brew Alchemist. Then we'll get an Embrittlement Ice Monkey for the extra damage, and then buff everything with a 4-2-0 primary mentoring village. Upgrade the Alchemist to a stronger stim, and then place down the future MVP of the run, a Glue Gunner. Get this guy to a 4-0-2 Bloon Dissolver, and depending on how hard the map is, either get him to a 5-0-2 Bloon Solver right away, or quickly get down a 2-4-0 Ice Monkey for some extra stalling, as that that really helps out our damage over time effects. Now we'll easily be able to make it to a Bloon Solver, and then we'll upgrade our Embrittlement Ice Monkey to a Super Brittle. This pairs great with our setup as the Bloon Solver gets that extra damage added onto his dot effect, and the Tack Shooter gets extra damage for every attack that hits a balloon. And because these first two tier 5s are so cheap, we can afford to make a couple more. So I like to get Attack Zone because of its synergy with the Super Brittle, and then you have a ton of freedom with what you spend the rest of your money on. I opted for an Absolute Zero since we already had the Snowstorm, but you can get something completely different like a Crosso Master if you want. Either way, this will take down any round and lead to some easy victories. Here are 3 Geraldo strategies you need to use. We'll start with the Fire Druids, a strategy that I use to black border ouch, but it absolutely crushes on easier maps too. We'll start off with placing whatever monkeys are needed to get past the first few rounds, and then work on placing Geraldo. We aren't in any rush to get him down, so unless you went through the effort of timing his level 20 restock, the earlier the better. From here, we'll get 2 to 3 Druids down. Make one of them a 2/0/2 Heart of Thunder and the others 0/1/3 Druids of Wrath. This will give you enough popping power to make it to the 30s, where we'll unlock Geraldo's Worn Hero Cape. Put this on a Dart Monkey and watch it clear the round. The nice thing about this setup is that we don't have to worry about camos at all. Just pop the round 24 camo green with a pile of nails, and on round 33 give the Super Monkey, Geraldo, or a Druid a camo potion. Now, if any round gets difficult, just put Pickles on the Super Monkey. This will make him attack 33% slower, but doubles his damage. Definitely worth the trade-off. But we'll work towards getting knockback on this guy and then pick up the Druid of the Storm upgrade. This will make round 40 super easy, as our Super Monkey will take out the Moab's outer layer and the Tornado will blow back the ceramics inside, giving us plenty of time to pop everything. From here, you have a choice. Either get 2 discount villages or a normal one. This is normally decided by how much space you have, but either way works just fine. This will let you get Radar Scanner up in time for round 42 for the camo rainbows. If needed, we can use a camo potion on the Super Monkey again, but this shouldn't be an issue unless you're on a harder map and had to spend a lot of money on Geraldo items or obstacles to survive. Now, if you're on a map with water, like Haunted, you can choose to get a Submerge and Support Submarine instead of a Radar Scanner. This can make getting a discount village or 2 easier, as you can pick up the extra range on the second village instead of getting camo detection. Once that's done, upgrade your Super Monkey to a 0/3/1 Robo Monkey and set its targeting to first and close. This will take care of the mid game, especially if you keep it pickled. Next, we'll place down a few more Druids until we have 7 total, and upgrade all of these guys to 0/1/4 Populus and watch your damage skyrocket. If you have the space, you can get more Druids of Wrath, but it's not necessary. I like to stop at about 6 Populus, a Druid of the Storm, and 2 Druids of Wrath. This is close to the classic Avatar of Wrath strat, but we're going to put Jerry's hot sauce on these Druids, giving them a fire spirit that inherits their Populus buffs. This makes them very strong for how cheap they are. We'll finish upgrading these Druids in the 50s or 60s, and then we'll pick up a support monkey or 2. I like putting a 0/2/4 Glue Gunner up front, but this could change depending on the meta. Anyway, this will bring us to round 63, which is where you should put hot sauce on 2 to 3 of your Druids. This damage combined with the blowback of the Tornado Druid will be enough to beat the round. For the rest of the game, just maintain 2 or 3 fire spirits at all times and buy Geraldo's bunnies when they come in stock. Speaking of Geraldo's shop, at level 13, his turrets get upgraded and are actually a great cleanup option, especially if you have an army of them near the end of the track. So purchase them every time one comes in stock and you'll lock up the exit. But now we have options. So many options. On a difficult map like Ouch, you'll need some more support like a Glue Storm, Genies for round 98, and some Spike Storms. But on advanced maps and easier, just pick a tower and go for it. I got a Moab Domination and Sunken Columns, a Superstorm on Haunted, a Cripple Moab and Savitar on Rake, and Blue Incineration on Crack. If you want an easy win though, pick up a Glue Storm and use its ability anytime you see DDTs. This will completely counter every DDT round, making them very easy to pop. Then just keep a buffer of money so you can buy more of Geraldo's items in the 90s so you don't have anything to worry about. Fire potions last 10 rounds, so on round 91, place all of them on Druids. On top of this, we'll give as many of them as we can camo potions, pickles, and sharpening stone. Then, once Geraldo hits level 20, his shop will completely restock and we'll do it again. Give as many of these buffs as possible, as it will only make the rounds easier. Use 2 Genies on round 98, and you can use 2 Rejuvenation Potions for round 100. These Rejuve pots work great with First Strikes or Spike Storms, as you can deal massive damage to the bad by refreshing their abilities. But that should pretty easily give you the dub with plenty of money left over. Next up, we have the Comanche Commander, which actually got nerfed in this last patch because it was performing so well. What we'll do is simple. Just like the previous strat, get down whatever starting monkeys are needed to beat the first few rounds, and then place Geraldo. Once placed, we'll get an early game tower like a Druid of the Jungle, Ninja, or even some shooty turrets. This will help us save up for a heli pilot and a Worn Hero's cape. The order doesn't really matter, but after we get both, we'll buff everything with a Jungle Drums village. Once again, camos aren't an issue, as you can camo pot the super monkey or heli and they'll be able to handle the 30s. Depending on how much money you spent, you might be able to upgrade the heli pilot to a 203 Moab shove by round 40. If so, this round is a piece of cake, as you'll pop the outer layer of the Moab at the very start of the track. If you don't think you can get there though, you can buy knockback on the super monkey and give him a jar of pickles for extra damage, and you should be just fine. From here it's straightforward. Get radar scanner in the village for 40s, pick up Moab shove if you haven't already, and then upgrade the super monkey to either a 031 robo monkey if you already bought knockback, or a 320 sun avatar if you still have that option open. It's personal preference, but if you do end up going with a sun avatar, give it a stronger stim alchemist for some extra popping power. If you went with the robo monkey, you don't need that elk. If you're on a map where a super monkey isn't too viable, you can get a different mid-game monkey like an elite sniper. This also pairs well with Geraldo, as you can give it sharpening stone as long as you make it a 052 like I did on Infernal. Anyway, once you're done with your mid-game monkey, start upgrading the heli pilot to a 205 Comanche commander. This takes quite a bit of time, but the save up is pretty easy. For any difficult round like 63, just apply sharpening stone and pickles to the robo monkey and heli, or just pickles the sun avatar. And if you're really scared, you can always use some glues or a spicy potion for extra defense. What's nice is around this time you'll be able to get Geraldo's killer bunnies, which will help a ton against ceramic rushes and BFBs. But in the late 70s or early 80s, you should be able to get the Comanche commander. Keep this guy sharpening stoned at all times, but unfortunately we won't be pickling this guy. It's tempting to do so, but we're going to be stacking extra damage on him, which makes pickles not worth it. The first bit of extra damage we'll get is a 052 glue storm. This ability has a high uptime and makes glued balloons take +2 damage from every attack, and the Comanche commander shoots tons of darts very fast. Combine these with the extra pierce that we're getting from the sharpening stone, and it's no wonder why the ComCom got its price raised. You can use the glue's ability at the start of basically every round, just make sure that you have it up and running for DDTs, as our heli doesn't have lead popping power without it. Speaking of DDTs, on round 86 we'll give our ComCom an upgraded camo potion, as that'll give it +1 damage to camos for the rest of the game. An optional pickup is a 420 alchemist. He only buffs the main helicopter, but it's still a decent option. But this brings us to round 90. Activate glue storm right when the round starts, and you'll easily glue every DDT and pop them at the start of the track. Then, once you're on round 91, put a spicy potion on the ComCom and any other tower that you want. These will last the rest of the game and just give us extra popping power. And from here, we can pick up basically any monkey. I personally like getting a first strike submarine or super brittle, but honestly they're not needed. Some tips that I use are to glue storm the second you see DDTs on round 95, as this will last long enough to get every DDT. Use glue storm at the start of round 98 and it'll be back up in time for round 99. And for genies, I like to place one on round 98 and one on round 99. This will smoke the rounds, and you'll have enough money left over to either first strike or spike storm the bad. This isn't mandatory though, as the ComCom should be able to handle the bad on its own, especially since you'll still have a genie from round 99. And finally, we have Geraldo's avatars, and this one is even less dependent on the early game. So much so that after you get Geraldo down, you can do what you want until round 40. So get through that early game however possible. On Pat's Pond, I did this with a Druid of the Jungle and Bouncing Bullet Sniper, but on Streambed it was with an APD submarine. It's very flexible. But in the late 30s or early 40s, we'll start prepping our Savatars. Squish 3 Dart Monkeys and 2 to 3 Alchemists right next to each other. Then place 3 discount villages in range of them all. If you're low on space, 2 discount villages will do, but 3 is ideal. From here, we'll use a Worn Hero's Cape on our Dart Monkeys, upgrade one of our villages to a 022 radar scanner and the other to a 202 jungle drums. This will lock up the 40s pretty easily, and we can move on to the fun part. Upgrade an Alchemist to a Berserker Brew, and whatever super monkey is closest to that elk will upgrade to a 020 and then a 320 sun avatar. Depending on the map, you might be able to get this guy in time for round 63. If so, you should beat it just fine, but if not, you have several choices. You can use 2 to 3 spicy potions, some bottles of glue, or you might be able to afford Geraldo's killer bunnies like I did on Pat's Pond, but that'll depend on the map difficulty and what round you place Geraldo down. Once our Savitar and bunny are online, we'll upgrade our other alchemist to Berserker Brews and make our other 2 super monkeys 320s. This should bring us to the mid 80s, where we'll upgrade our elks to stronger stims and pick up some support monkeys like a Sabotage Ninja, Relentless Glue Gunner, or Moab Press Boomerang. To get more damage, we'll just put the camo potions on our Savatars, we'll give each of them pickles, and if you want, give them all spicy potions. This plus 2 genies on 98 will be plenty of defense even on harder maps. This doesn't cost much money though, which means we have tons of freedom once again. On Stream Bed, I won with over 56 grand just sitting there. On Cracked, we picked up a Bloon Master Alchemist, and on Pat's Pond, we did the double rejuvenation potion so we could first strike the bad 3 times. But those are 3 amazing strategies that you should use with Geraldo. There are some weird strategies in BTD6 and we're going to cover them all, but we have to start with the normal ones and work our way up. So to start, we have the classic Pop plus Druids, 21 Ninjas, and Apache Prime strategies. All 3 of these revolve around getting some support monkeys online, saving up for an expensive tier 5 tower, and having it carry you through round 100. These are very standard, easy to follow, and work very well on beginner maps where people are going for their first few black borders. They require almost no changes between maps and have a straightforward path to victory. Because of this, I put them as the least weird strategies in the game, and we'll be using them as our standard. Next, we have the Pat Fusty Tack Zone strategy. A very popular combo as Pat's extra damage synergizes with tack shooters, and though very similar to the previous 3, I put this a little weirder because I find it funny that the 2 main towers in this strat have such little range. Tied with this are the Sub-Commander strats, as it looks pretty weird when you put a bunch of 002 dart monkeys around the track so your advanced intel submarines can shoot the balloons no matter where they are. Plus, you have some flexibility for spamming triple guns, APDs, or going for a commander plus preemptive strike for that double damage missile. Next, we have arguably the best strat in the game with the Striker Jones Mob Mauler spam. Now this one does have a straightforward path to victory, but the fact that you are spamming tier 3 bomb shooters instead of having a tier 5 tower is a bit weird. Plus, you get to mix in a primary expertise if you're feeling spicy, and you get to use tons of abilities with Mob Assassins and Striker's refresh ability. After that, we have anything involving the Sky Shredder. This one has a ton of flexibility with what hero you run and towers you use to get to this balloon abuser. Typically, you run Geraldo, ETN, or Psy so you can save up a ton of money in the mid game, with the only real constant being buffing the Sky Shredder with an Alchemist and a Village. But the reason I rank this a bit weird is because this is the first strategy that you can increase the DPS of the main tower by microing it. For those of you who don't know, you can actually control where monkey aces spend most of their time flying by changing their flight patterns in certain orders. So if you have the dedication and skill, you can keep your Sky Shredder on top of the balloons and have it deal much more damage. That's way too much work for me, but cool and weird nonetheless. Next up is the Adora Savitar strategy, which is where things take a dark turn. Her sacrifice ability gives her and Sun avatars extra attack range and reduces their attack cooldown. This is very useful for tough rounds and will also power level Adora very quickly. At level 20, a $2,000 sacrifice will give plus 50% range and make them attack twice as fast for 60 seconds. The hard part is having enough money to keep up with these sacrifices, which is why I like to do it on impoppable or boss events where farming is key. That being said, murdering your friends for balloon popping fuel is one weird and gruesome way to go about this game. Now we'll move into the next weird strategy, which I'm just going to combine all of the stalling strats. I don't know why, but something about freezing balloons so you can amass a giant wall of spikes at the end of the track doesn't sound like a normal way to pop balloons. And we can take this to another level by adding Brickle to the mix and loading the water with powerful mines. Though weird, these are some of the best strategies in the game. Just have a 032 helicopter blowing the ceramics back towards the front and have a 012 ice monkey freezing them out of range of everything else. If your ice monkey is the only thing attacking, it will give you plenty of time to reset your cooldowns and refresh those spike piles. And late game, you can add a 402 sniper set to last to stall a ZOMG for a very long time. Next up, we have anything Geraldo related. He is so unconventional that anything you do with him is weird. The bouncing bullet sharpening stone strat has proven to be incredible even on the hardest maps. His hero cape stone avatars that are pickle boosted do wonders. His glue and traps are some of the only things that you can manually place on the track. His farming is weird with the rare Quincy action figure, not to mention the fact that he basically reinvented sniper farming with the rejuvenation potion. He has a bunny paragon, and he makes the later 90s much easier with genies. This guy turns the game on its head with his bamboozling items, but the more we play with him, the less weird it gets, so I put him here in the middle. The Ultra Juggernaut is next, a classic super cheap tier 5 that is usually overlooked as it doesn't transition that well into the late game. That is unless you're playing on maps like Cornfield, Mesa, or Encrypted. Here, this affordable tower's DPS shoots through the roof and rivals some upgrades that cost $50,000 as its spike balls will re-hit balloons after bouncing off obstacles. And re-hitting balloons is pretty weird in my book. Normally darts just pass on through and only deal their damage once. After that, we have the Perma Alchemist. There is something funny about spending all your money on a support tower just to have your other tower towers do more damage. Nonetheless, it works very well if you can save up that much. Now obviously this is pretty standard in any game mode that allows farming, but it's pretty weird to be running permabrew plus some cheap towers in a chimps game. Up next, we have the Total Transformation and Plasma Monkey Fan Club strategies. Both of these are super good, especially if you have the timings down for when to use their abilities, but it makes for some of the weirdest setups I've ever seen. Either you're running 20 dart monkeys with a PMFC, or you're doing some funky stuff with Poplus Druids next to a Total Transformation Elk, both of which make for some very funny looking maps. Just make sure to have some way to stall the balloons so you can have your abilities ready for every round. Next, we have anything that involves a Carpet of Spikes Spactory. Now the way I see it, there are two ways to fight this war against the balloons. Either you can set up a bunch of monkeys to manually pop any trespasser that dares to float along the track, or you can make the track uninhabitable by loading it chock full of deadly spikes. Similar to the Perma Spike that makes a wall at the end of the track, but much funnier and weirder in my mind is this thing just constantly vomiting spikes everywhere, just hoping that it is enough to stop the endless waves of balloons. I kind of painted a pretty dark picture there. Anyway, next up on this list is the Inferno Ring. Known for its incredible temperatures, its weird strategy actually takes advantage of its meteor. Pair this volcano with a primary training village and a stronger stim alchemist, and bang, you have yourself a 5-pierce meteor that will shred ZOMGs. Pretty weird that you pay for a giant ring of death, but your plan mainly revolves around its secondary attack. Next, we have anything involving Flooded Valley. I mean, this map's layout makes for just about anything we do weird. I'm talking about only using monkeys that can shoot over obstacles, making ice bridges that go halfway across the map, getting a carrier flagship just to place an ice monkey on it, and don't even get me started on primary only. That is a wild challenge in itself. Anyway, this isn't a set strategy, but it would be remiss of me if I did not put it pretty high on this list. The second to last spot is tied between 203 and 320 bomb shooter spams. Do they pale in comparison to the Mob Mauler strategy? Yes, but they still get the job done in the weirdest of ways, even on incredibly difficult maps. The 203s can handle any type of balloon to the frag bombs upgrade, and the 320s have great pierce and decent damage. Just pair them with a primary expertise, ice monkeys, and some mob assassins, and you're good to go. And the weirdest strategy of them all that is surprisingly good is the 250 Absolute Zero paired with a primary expertise village. When together, the Absolute Zero's ability becomes incredibly short, letting it stall just about every round, and the primary expertise chips away at the blimps and ceramics. I mean, just look at how slow we made those fortified DDTs on round 99, and the ability was back up by round 100. That is absolutely ridiculous. The only other things you need are some spike balls at the end of the track for miscellaneous cleanup and some single target damage for round 100. Per CHOMP, the MOB Eliminator is typically the way to go for this, but let me know any weird strategies that I did not cover in this, and maybe we'll make another one. We have a new ninja strategy in BTD6. It isn't the Grand Master or the Master Bomber, but it's the Grand Saboteur. You see, the Grand Sabo's ability grants all shinobis on screen plus 10 range and plus 2 damage to MOB class balloons when active. And not only will we have at least 20 shinobis down, but we will also combine them with Geraldo. His hot sauce spirits inherit buffs from the monkeys they're on, so when you place Jerry's hot sauce on shinobi ninjas, they get the extra attack speed and pierce from the other shinobis, as well as the extra range and damage from the Grand Sabo's ability. This can be incredibly powerful, and it's pretty easy to pull off, so let me show you what order to get everything in. The start doesn't really matter, just beat the first few rounds however necessary. If you can do that with a ninja, perfect. If not, no big deal. From here, we'll get Geraldo down as soon as possible, and then work towards a Bloon Jitsu ninja and a Berserker Brew Alchemist. This will be able to handle the rounds, especially if you buff the ninja with Geraldo's Pickles or Sharpening Stone. But here is where things get exciting. Get down a 202 village off to the side where it barely hits your Bloon Jitsu. If you have the room, you can get another discount village, but this can complicate things and isn't quite necessary, so it's up to you. After the village though, we'll place down 10 030 ninjas all inside the village's range and all buffing the Bloon Jitsu. This is normally where you save up for a Grandmaster Ninja or Master Bomber, but we have a unique save up period. We'll upgrade our Alchemist to a 401 and one Shinobi to a 042. This should bring us to round 59, so we'll place down a Fire Spirit on one of our ninjas. The nice thing about these is that they last 10 rounds, so not only will it secure the camo leads on round 59, but also make round 63 a breeze, especially when we pair it with our newly found Sabotage ability. If you want even more help for these rounds, you can get a 032 wizard up front. Just make sure he's in range of the discount village and it won't set us back too much. At this point, Geraldo should be hitting level level 10, unlocking his pet rabbit. Place these down the second they're in stock, and other than that, we'll be saving up for the Grand Saboteur. The merged bunnies will be able to beat any tough rounds during the save up, especially when you use the ninja slow. Once we have the Grand Sabo, plop down a fire spirit or two and start placing shinobi ninjas all around the village. We want as many of the ninjas to have 20 shinobi buffs on them as possible, so we'll be placing a total of 21 or 22. Then go around and upgrade every shinobi to a 031 to give them that extra range. No round should be difficult during this time, so just maintain a fire spirit or two and use the sabotage ability if bloons are getting too far for comfort. This goes until round 90. You see, our ninjas don't have lead popping power, so the DDTs can be difficult, but there are a few things you can do to make them super easy. The first thing to do is place all of Geraldo's spicy potions on your shinobis, as these spirits will last for the rest of the game. Combine this with the Grand Sabo's ability anytime DDTs are on screen, and the extra damage for the fire spirits will shred them apart. Additionally, you can get a support monkey like a glue strike or embrittlement to de-lead the DDTs, or if you had room for a second village, you can always upgrade it to a 032 to let your monkeys pop any type of balloon. Depending on the map's difficulty, Geraldo should be hitting level 20 around this time, refreshing his shop. So in the mid to late 90s, you'll be able to have 6 or more fire spirits up at all times. This alone will get you the win on many maps, but you'll have tons of money to spare. With this, I recommend picking up a super brittle, glue storm, or homeland defense, but you can really get whatever you want, especially if you place down Geraldo's genies on the tough rounds like 98 and 99. And if you still have money left over, just pick up caltrops on all your ninjas. Now, you may be tempted to use the Grand Sabo's ability to weaken blimps as they spawn in, but in general, it's better to use the ability when everything is in range of the fire spirits for that extra damage. If your defenses are set up at the very start of the trek, you can get the Grand Sabo to do both, but this usually isn't the case. But by combining shinobis, the Grand Sabo, and Geraldo's fire potions, you should be able to take down plenty of maps on chimps.